Hello again, everybody, and welcome inside the Howitzer and Buzzsaw show. I am George the Howitzer Gerbo.
And I am Mike the Buzzsaw Asti.
Sports Talk with you. Jam-packed, action-packed episode. Playoffs all over the place. We got football things going on. Got some baseball. We got some college baseball talk going on. Everything is
NFL
right?
steals the headlines despite everything going on, though.
Yeah.
They can't be topped, but yes.
They're dragging these things out purposely now in the NFL. God bless it. We will, of course, talk about it, but I don't pay much attention to it. But that's what they want you to pay attention to it. I will not. Got my attention fully on the playoffs, summertime, all that other good stuff. Happy summer to Buzzsaw, who enjoys this season probably more than I do even. So
I enjoy the weather. We're not officially into summer, actually, if you want to be technical.
But
we are in spring. You can call this. Someone asked me if this was going to be the summer of Mike, because this is the first summer that either we are not about to have a baby be born, my wife is not pregnant, like this could be the summer of Mike. And I told that person that in my life right now, pretty much every summer, every day is the summer or the day of Mila, who was my first daughter and a toddler. But yes, we are in the peak portion of the calendar for Mike the Buzzsaw Asti. It is warm weather. It is just a better vibe. Everyone's in a better mood right now in the spring, at the end of spring, going into summer. It's more relaxed. It's not as serious, even though, of course, we have postseason action going on and a lot of movement here to talk about here in this edition of the HBS. And as we open up, I will give a shout out to my youngest daughter, my second daughter and final daughter, Lucy, as it will be, well, we are recording this on Thursday, so we're recording this right in front of her birthday, her first birthday, June 5th, her first birthday.
Happy birthday, Lucy.
Which also is my 5-year wedding anniversary, which we have lost for her birthday. So she has stolen the day, has claimed it now. It is her first birthday, so happy birthday to Lucy, aka Lucy Goose. And yes, now we can fully move on with an official summer. My other daughter will have a birthday as well in July. But yeah, I will take this over snow and frigid temperatures and ice and cold weather and having to wear a jacket. It's shorts and t-shirt, maybe a hoodie if it's chilly season right now.
Okay. Buzzsaw is working his way into it. I'm enjoying it. It's one time of the year, folks. You should enjoy it.
Can you imagine being unhappy right now? Like, what are you doing?
We pray for you if you're unhappy.
I mean, it's a rough season to be unhappy. I'll put it to you that way.
Was unhappy at points earlier in the spring. Ain't unhappy anymore. Ain't unhappy anymore.
Wow. You're fine right now with where you are. I'm a little jealous as I'm not able to go out on a whim as easy as George Gerbo these days.
Joining from the Western Conference champion Vegas Golden Knights hometown. Here as we'll talk hockey in a little bit on the Howitzer and Buzzsaw show. A first-day reminder to find us, like us, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Search Howitzer Buzzsaw on your favorite podcast app to find us there. Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, and more, all available on those platforms. And of course, a shout out to the Hyphen Podcast Group, making great podcasts for the people. hyphenpodcastgroup.com, and on social, shout out to B Hyphen for his music, which you hear each time here on the HBS.
Yeah, we bumped a champion. It's our montage. It's still my favorite tune from Kellen B. and Conley, and I've seen some new music videos that Kellen's been teasing. So looking for those to come out and hit the airwaves. But yes, you can also find us everywhere you get your podcasts and across social media at Howitzer Buzzsaw for the show handle, at Gerbo3 and at Mike Asti 11, everywhere on social.
NFL, as Mike alluded to, leads us off here, and it's very it would take a mammoth type of action in the NFL to
not lead off with either the NBA Finals or Stanley Cup Final, and that's what's happened.
To do this thing, right? And sure enough, it does. And it's one of a guy that's a future Hall of Famer and one of the best pass rushers of his era. Myles Garrett is leaving Cleveland, traded from the Browns to the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
Propensity to do these.
Yeah.
deals.
F them picks, man. F them picks.
Now on the Browns end, Jared Verse goes back, excellent player. They get Los Angeles's first round pick next year in 27, a second round pick in 2028, a third round pick in 2029.
Yeah.
So and we'll kind of get into this here in a second, even though you come off of, for Myles, he gets the sack record there in that last game, what ends up being his last game as a Cleveland Brown. If you're a Browns fan, and I've been talking with some Browns fans in my life the past couple of days, I was like, you can't. I was like, oh. I was like, you can't really be mad with the return there if you're a Browns fan. On the Rams side, as Mike alludes to there, the Les Snead and the Rams, and they won a Super Bowl doing it, of course, got Aaron Donald, Pittsburgh native, Pitt grad, that ring. They, between 2016 and this season, so the last decade, they've only taken 3 players in the first round.
Yeah.
All 3 of them have now been traded.
I was going to say one of them led to the ring because it was Jared Goff, who was quarterback of the first time they went to the Super Bowl and lost, and then they end up bouncing him for Stafford and winning it. So they're not even – these players aren't even getting the fruits of the labor. So really the draft has been completely irrelevant to the Rams outside of –
the most recent one, Ty Simpson's on that roster now, quarterback traded, of course. But Jared Goff – in 2016 ends up going to Detroit and making a championship contender out of Detroit who played an NFC championship game, and Stafford comes over and as you say, gets the job done and gets his ring. They didn't have a first round draft pick from 2017 until 2024. In 2024, they draft Jared Verse, and he is now a Cleveland Brown. And last year, they did not have a first-round pick. And next year, they won't have a first-round pick. So we're talking a period of 12 years that they're going to go with 3 first-round picks. And the only one that will still be on the roster is Ty Simpson.
To add in, regardless of how they do this year, and of course, they're a championship contender for sure, if not a favorite. In addition to drafting Ty Simpson, they gave Matthew Stafford an extension. So he already has an extension, which means that you would imagine that Ty Simpson will not see the field, not only 2026, George, but based on the extension, he won't see the field in 2027, even if they're good, bad, or indifferent. So unless Stafford would somehow retire, like there are rumors that if they win another championship, he'll just retire. But aside from him choosing to retire, he is now on the books for multiple years based on this extension. So if that holds, then Ty Simpson's draft pick right now, or at least will be delayed. And, they can rationalize it by being the future, and maybe Stafford will retire and they already have a great roster. Sure. But that'll be delayed. So they're literally going to use nothing from the draft to make this happen through this last decade outside of just tinkering things and using players to then pivot into other players. If you're saying that Goff becomes Stafford and Verse becomes Myles Garrett, like you have really, really good all-pro players who then become legendary Hall of Famers. And so far, that's already worked for one championship. We'll see about the second. And it's also a little bit of an interesting story because the Cleveland Browns have been stubbornly, publicly denying any interest in trading Myles Garrett, saying they were not shopping him, saying they were not going to move him, bringing up that they just signed him a year ago to an extension and provided him mega money, which is why that he ended up staying there, because prior to the sack record, for everyone who does not know, and I'm sure you do at this point, he wanted to leave then. So speaking of extensions, he got one, and he's actually going to lose some money based on taxes and all of that by now going to Los Angeles. About $20 million he will now lose out of his wallet to make this happen. And he kind of got most of his money, though, and got the sack record, and now he moves on. But that's also funny. You can't believe anything any GM says, especially in this era, because pretty much every single GM has just lied all through the offseason, including the Browns. But as you mentioned, even the most loyal Browns fan who never wanted to see Garrett leave and just wants to keep the Hall of Fame players that they bring in and that they draft, and he's a former #1 overall pick, and just loves Myles Garrett and is just frustrated that they only got one playoff win out of Myles Garrett and 2 playoff appearances out of Myles Garrett, despite all these sacks. And the sack record season, they only had 5 freaking wins. So it was irrelevant to winning. And that Browns fan that will never forgive that, because it arguably, at least team-wise, was a wasted 9-year stretch with a legendary pass rusher who's going to go down as one of the best of all time. As you said, you can't be mad at the return. And as they've even alluded to, and many people in the know have said, the Browns have turned down other offers from the Rams and other teams, and they wouldn't have agreed unless Jared Verse was a part of the deal. They got a player that can help them now. Speaking of sacks, he had 7.5 a year ago. He's only 2 years in. He's only 25. He's much younger. You figure he's actually going to be there 2 or 3 years from now, whenever they maybe could actually be a contender again, whereas Garrett would be in his early to mid 30s at that point. It would no longer be able to be to the level he is now, you would at least imagine. So the age, the skill level, he's not Myles Garrett. He'll never go down as Myles Garrett historically, but he is a great impact player. Overall tackles wise, they're very similar. He's already been a Pro Bowler, only 2 years in, was a defensive rookie of the year candidate all through his rookie season. So they get an impact player that, if you're going to trade Garrett, this is exactly who you'd want as an active roster player, plus a first-round pick, which is going to be in a very deep quarterback class, even if they need another one and don't love Shedeur Sanders, who I don't. And then more draft picks to rebuild it all over again.
Yeah, to keep it on the Brown side for a moment, like that's the place where it's, okay, we're in this weird muddled thing where we literally tried 5 different guys last year, and now the rumor is, that somehow they're going to slow walk and somehow bring Deshaun Watson back into the fold, and perhaps
they have one more year of having to pay
take meaningful snaps with all that we know about Deshaun Watson and the allegations against him and what caused him to be away all this time.
No fan wants him either. So imagine if you're a Browns fan, you lose Garrett, you're gonna have Deshaun Watson maybe start some games, if not Shedeur Sanders. If that doesn't go well, then you have Watson. It's a rough year for Browns
next
fans.
year gives you more leverage in that draft, whether you're bad enough to secure the number 1 or top 5 overall pick.
You will be.
Which is a possibility, obviously, or if you'd like to use that capital to move up further in the 27 draft next year. And also, and it's not to ding Myles Garrett, who obviously is, incredible freak athlete, one of the most talented defensive players we've seen. Put him in like a class with guys like JJ Watt and Reggie White and that type of thing, and the way he can break a game. But also at his point, age wise, Mike in his early to mid now, it's
Verse is what, 24, 25. It's a big different story.
So it's not like you can't expect him to continue to do some of this for a little bit, but it's not going to be a decade, right? And so if you're the Browns, you're just in this place. And it's not contentious. It was kind of contentious last year when he came out with the kind of the open letter statement. Wasn't leaked or whatever, but like he was just like, I love here and everything. I really want to chase a championship, and I don't think I can do it.
Chase the championship, and then he backed off it and signed his money. I mean, who's the big winner in all of this? Here's the big winner. Here's the big winner. Myles Garrett's agent. Because Myles Garrett's agent in the past year managed to get him paid mega dollars, get the sack record to become a legend just by itself and secure the Hall of Fame, and then get himself over to Los Angeles to go ahead and try to win a championship. And he doesn't have to worry about the Rams. I can't give you as much because we're paying everybody else. Doesn't matter. The Browns already took care of me this past season. I'm already good financially. So the agent, I don't know the name of the agent. I hear actually it's a woman out of Clutch Sports, of course, LeBron's group. Don't have the name in front of me, but the agent, big winner here. But this is almost a weird scenario, George. And, you can like this, you can not. Sometimes I like to debate where one's a real winner and one's a loser. Because of the Browns' position, where they're years away from really contending, and now it seems like they actually know that, even though they have a new coach coming over. They actually agree and know that. They have a player that now fits their timeline more with either Shedeur Sanders or whoever they will draft next year at QB. So they're still several years away. They know that and maturely figured that out and traded the older player for high value. So really the Browns on a return for Myles Garrett, whether it be this year, last year, or whenever, this is about a high return. Like, were they going to get better than Verse if they would have done this a year ago? Probably not. This is a great deal for the Browns.
Actual player, not just, straight capital.
Plus a first-round pick. How often do you see a
capital
first-rounder and a player?
Yeah,
right.
an actual, not just like a defensive player, but
No,
like
a good player, right?
Guy that has a track record as a young player in this league.
It's better than what the Cowboys got in the Parsons trade.
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar to be fair, but this is even a step above because Verse is younger and Verse is already a Pro Bowler. I even like this more in terms of the draft picks plus Verse. So the Browns are big winners here. Everyone pretty much knows that and agrees with that. The Rams, of course, are winners because last year they were in the NFC title game. They feel like they had the best team in the league. They feel like they were equal with the Seahawks, and of course the Seahawks go ahead and win a championship. Matthew Stafford is actually getting better in his older age, winning his first MVP, solidifying himself for the Hall of Fame. They have the leader in touchdown receptions, getting the ball from Matthew Stafford. They have a solid defense, but not a great one, and yet get right there and knock on the door. So now you add Myles Garrett to the fold. They're in win-now mode. Win-now mode as ever before. They've been in it for a decade. They won a title, but they want more. We can even have a debate in the future, George, that the F them picks era, if they only come out of it with one ring, you could argue that's a disappointment because they've traded all of these first round picks. They have all these Hall of Famers. Sean McVay probably has already secured himself for the Hall of Fame. And yet right now, one title, they won another. They're hungry for it. It's all about the now for the Rams, which is why this is a big win for them. This is a game-breaking player that can be the difference. And on paper, they're now better than the Seahawks. On paper, they're the best team in the NFC. On paper, they're better than the Patriots who finally brought in A.J. Brown. Like, they're still the best team in football now. And I would have maybe argued it was their time. I could have argued it was their time with Seattle just winning before the Garret trade. This is almost a step above now to fully secure it. Plus, they also made moves for the secondary, bringing multiple former Kansas City Chiefs players from their dynasty over to really solidify that. So a big winner are the Rams, and of course the agent's a big winner. Everybody freaking wins this mega deal.
It was their time before the trade. It was their time before last season, you could argue. And
no one picked the Seattle Seahawks. That was out of nowhere a bit, right?
That division turns into one of the toughest in football. With if you think back 2 seasons ago, San Francisco coming off all the coming off all those crazy injuries and everything, right? And everything that was going on. It's like, man, they need to get right. They was just kind of like a wagon. And
you would have said San Fran. You would have said Philadelphia in the NFC in terms of teams that were better than them. Maybe you would have, argued Detroit. You could have argued Minnesota back when they had Sam Darnold. You could have argued Green Bay. You could have argued Dallas. See, the Rams are way ahead of all these teams now, to me, on paper.
And it's Seattle and Darnold that and Mike McDonald that end up coming through in a surprise and end up winning the Super Bowl. And so now that they're strengthened by that going into a defending title season. And obviously San Francisco still has its pieces in their injuries, and they're a little bit older, and Kittle and Ayuk and those guys and everything, right? But so if you're the Rams, you're also aging a little bit, obviously, at the quarterback position. But now you essentially
the pressure's on, though. I mean, they have to win within the next 2 years.
These defensive guys, it's harder to. I don't want to say it's harder to develop defensive guys into like this level of defensive guy, but like you can take a wide receiver and he can be a nice little guy for you, right? He can catch 800 or 900 yards worth of passes.
You could just argue they were doing it with Verse. Like they were developing him into a star. If we're talking 2 years from now, Verse might be a top premier, one of the best in the game. Whether he's ever Myles Garrett or not, it's a different story.
Sure. But like there are these guys that jump off the paper that we will talk about in like legacy, legendary terms. Obviously, Verse can be there. He's not there yet. Parsons was there before in Dallas. Myles Garrett, obviously, there in his years, all of them, much like Joe Thomas's career in Cleveland on the offensive line, where you knew how good Joe Thomas was at that position, and he goes to Canton and is a Hall of Famer, and you saw the same things from Myles Garrett.
And he didn't want to leave. He rebuffed trades to get out of there. He could have got out of there, and Myles Garrett clearly wanted to get the hell out of there to win a ring and maximize his legacy. And hell,
same type of to go to Los Angeles, also ironically.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and the other end of this is even bringing up the Micah Parsons trade of a season ago, because that was very similar to this, a player that had some unhappiness there, even though he liked Dallas, but financially, him and Jerry Jones and all of that, he ends up getting moved to Green Bay kind of unceremoniously at the end of the preseason. Obviously, the Packers look great with him on the field, but here's the difference between, if you would have told me 2 years ago, George, if I'm the Packers and I'm the Rams, and you both feel that maybe you're a star defensive player away, kind of like you mentioned with Reggie White, where the Packers in the mid-90s were a star defensive pass rusher away from winning that championship with Favre. If you would have told me, though, a year plus ago, you can have either Micah Parsons or Myles Garrett, it would have been maybe a debate. You have to decide which one you wanted. I maybe would still argue Garrett, but it would be a debate. Now, today, it is head and shoulders Myles Garrett I'd rather have. And it's not so much the sacks record, even though Micah Parsons is great into the game breaker too. Here's the reason why Myles Garrett, George, is who you'd want in comparison of these two teams that maybe have the quarterback and the great pass rusher. Obviously, Green Bay's QB is much younger. If anyone thinks that's an advantage for Green Bay, here's the issue. And I was high on the Packers a year ago, but then here's why it collapsed, as you know. Myles Garrett, in terms of games played, 17, 16, 15, 17, 14, had the 10, 16, and then he was a rookie and still played 9. Myles Garrett does not miss time. Myles Garrett plays every single game, no matter what. Myles Garrett's at his best constantly all the time. Micah Parsons is building up a Hall of Fame legacy too, but he's getting to be an injury problem.
The nature of what he does, and the way he does
and that collapsed Green Bay a year ago.
Yeah.
So if you put Green Bay on a lie detector test, do you want Myles Garrett or do you want Micah Parsons? If you could do this again a year ago with a similar deal, because they were similar deals, I would think they would revert and rather have Myles Garrett at this point. Forget the sack total. I'm just talking about who's on the freaking field.
Yeah,
because all of that can be debated. But on
the
way
Garrett rushes, the way Myles Garrett gets downhill so quickly and physically overpowers you with just the way his size and his build, right? Parsons a different build, different type of athleticism, and he's using this. And Myles Garrett isn't going to, after he breaks the offensive line and he gets into the backfield, he's not necessarily going to pursue, right? If you're Myles Garrett, you're trying to drive or direct the quarterback in the pocket into your other guys that are coming to help you. Whereas Micah Parsons is the guy that's going to take the pursuit out to the sideline and follow the guy, right? So that style and his agility leads him to, there's issues for perhaps more of those knee injuries, lower leg injuries, and that type of thing. And
I think the simplest way of putting it is Micah Parsons has to do more work to be great. And it's not any shade to him, but if you watch him on the field, he's going to the outside more. He's using a lot more of his legs. He's using a lot more of his speed. You could even argue he's maybe a better athlete if they're going to play pickup games than Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's just a literal X-Men, just a physical specimen. But the problem is, George, Myles Garrett makes getting a sack look easy. It doesn't look hard when you watch Myles Garrett do it, and everyone's intimidated to deal with him. Micah Parsons is also a big body too, but he goes a lot to the outside. He really tries to go to the outside and then get you. He also tries to do more. He tries to cause fumbles more. He tries to turn the play into more than just the sack. And yes, that's great, but it's almost like Myles Garrett knows how to do this to stay on the field, to be healthy and expend the energy. He almost works smarter, not harder, for a similar career in a way. That's almost kind of what I'm saying. And if you're going to tell me who's going to play, forget titles and teams, who's going to play more games on the field next year after that, into these guys' contracts, it's hard not to say Myles Garrett will, unless you get some catastrophic craziness. If one of these guys is tearing their ACL or breaking their leg trying to go the outside, I would bet on Micah Parsons more than Myles Garrett, and that's how you would collapse this. Here's the other end of this that I do want to ask that we got to touch on, that some are talking about, that is the other part of this that I, George, would think this would almost guarantee a title that would become a scenario that people would start saying this is Golden State Warriors, it's getting boring level. What if Aaron Donald gets off his couch and says, let me join the fun? I've been out of football for 2 years. I still can be fit into your number. You can figure things out. I'll take a little bit less to get my second ring. I've already won one. You went to the NFC title game without me. You're really good without me. Now you bring in a pass rusher that is younger and kind of my equal, even though I'm a legend too. I'll join him to the other side. There would be no scheme against them. There'd be nothing you could do, regardless of Stafford, Goff, or whoever the hell would be the quarterback. They could put Ty Simpson out there if Stafford would get hurt. They might be able to do this defensively alone with all the fumbles they would cause and all the sacks they would generate. Who could get the ball off against them? You would need, instead of a 3-second drop, you would need 1.5 seconds at the best. That would just be such a game changer. Do you see that happening of Aaron Donald coming out of retirement to play one more year, one more ring to join the Myles Garrett fund? Apparently they are personally friends. Do you think that's legit and could happen? And if that does happen, what level of this is pretty much a lock title do the Rams get to?
I do think it's legitimate, just basically when we look at the facts, Aaron Donald's 35.
Yeah, he retired early, you could argue.
Retired at 33. Aaron Donald's younger than we are. Retired at 33.
Wanted to get into movies, which is why he retired, some say. Have you seen him in one yet? That's not working out.
He's 2 years. He's the same. Football is a hell of a drug. The same thing that
he's working out. He looks like he could play tomorrow.
Philip Rivers, who was months away from being on a Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Damn, restarting the damn clock. Like, God, that
not only came back, but he came back for what, 4 weeks?
Didn't win a game. He played admirably, but they didn't win a game. But
yeah.
I think Aaron Donald will win some games if he comes back.
Yeah,
he would also restart the clock, though, by the way.
Yeah, Aaron Donald is 2 years into his Hall of Fame, 5-year waiting period. He, in theory, in my eyes, would be a first ballot Hall of Fame.
I'm sure, yes.
But the biggest thing being his age, and if he wants to put in the work, and kind of not to,
35 is not that old. I mean, 35
not that old. And the same thing, we've seen it with guys, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or whoever over the years, like the old guys just don't want to deal with this mandatory and the OTAs.
Oh, they could do it. He could do it later in the summer.
Yes, right. So, right. And when you're Rodgers, you get some of that grace. If you're Aaron Donald and you're like, hey, I'm going to show up the first week of August instead.
I mean, have you seen his videos? I think he could handle it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they take him. I mean, it's just about fitting the money in. And George, so he's 35. He's about the same age that Reggie White was when he joined the Packers. I mean, he could be an impact player. And here's another difference. Reggie White had to do some work. He was the top pass rusher on those Packer teams despite being in his late 30s. Myles Garrett's there. Aaron Donald would not be. You don't need to have like the greatest season of your career. Literally, George, if you are Aaron Donald and you are 50% of your former self and you stand on the other side and do nothing, there are going to be teams terrified and have no idea what to do. Your just presence alone is going to open up space for Myles Garrett. Let him get 30 sacks and you just stand there. Like, he's going to have an impact regardless. And it almost feels like, to be hearing these reports, they got to be at least coming from his camp a little bit. You're seeing former players, insiders saying this. They weren't saying it a year ago when he was out and they were a really, really good team. I don't know if he wants to join up with a second ring and he just thinks this is almost a guarantee. He wants to join in the sack party or what? But it's about fitting the money in. I think this is about 50-50 this happens, and I'm almost leaning towards it happening and leaning towards believing it's going to happen, maybe even 60-40 that it happens, based on, where there's smoke, there's really fire in this. And I do think you probably hear about it, and he comes back later into the summer, misses these camps, but he loves football so much. I think he wouldn't just miss training camp. He probably wants to do training camp. I don't think he skips training camp. You got to at least get in football shape. I mean, lifting in an Instagram video is not the same thing as football shape, even if you're Aaron Donald. But yeah, I mean, he's already been retired. He already had his number retired by Pitt. He's already fully living the retired life and looking to go to movies. But I think it's a different story when you see they basically got the younger version of me now on this squad. Let me also be there. And then, let's go ahead. And can you imagine? It's a good thing Sam Darnold won that ring, because can you imagine seeing these reports if you're Sam Darnold sitting there saying, wow, now I got to deal with Garrett and both of them coming at me. It's going to be rough for me, because I'm going to get sacked quite a bit and be dealing with a lot of a pass rush and the whole thing in the kitchen sink coming at me. So I think Aaron Donald's going to come out of retirement to play on this team. And George, I mean, I'm not, I like Matthew Stafford. I like Darnold. I like some of these players. I'm not a Rams fan by any means. I want to see it. I want to see it. If you're going to have Garrett and Stafford there, if you're already going to be a favorite, let's stack the deck. I want to see just how this would work. I want to see it.
And Donald doesn't need to be an every down player, obviously, right?
No, not at all. He doesn't need to do what Reggie White did with Green Bay. Does not need to be an every down.
Not even an every drive player per se. It's situational. If you get a touchback and you can get 3 and out, or maybe a first or 5 or 6 play drive, and your defense can stop it. Like I see Aaron Donald as we're utilizing him around from like the 45 in.
I got a good comparison for you. What he can do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when the Patriots added James Harrison and went to a Super Bowl? He was a part-time player. He was basically used, what you're saying, as spotty appearances. But when he would go in there, he'd be 100%, and it'd be, oh, damn, there's James Harrison there. Imagine that with Aaron Donald.
Could argue
that you could do that.
Could argue James Harrison might still be able to play as well.
He looks like he's stacked, too. He's having fun doing a podcast with Joe Hayden. But
James could give a quarter. Debo could give a quarter.
I mean, they maybe we need to call Omar. That's more of Steelers business because he's trying to get back in good graces with Pittsburgh. But I mean, I want to see it. I think it can happen. The only thing, as you're talking there, I mean, maybe Aaron Donald wouldn't want to do that. Maybe if he can't be 100% starter, he doesn't want to do it. Like he does have a ring, he doesn't need to. Maybe he thinks that would diminish his legacy by being kind of a part-time assassin. But if he's down with it, that's incredible to deal with. Like, I want to see it. I want it to happen. That probably is how to use him best. But if somebody would tell me that he comes back and he's automatically going to end up work his way into being the starter, I wouldn't be shocked either. I mean, he's 35. He's not 45. Like he could do this thing for one more year. Again, the money is the problem. But with or without Aaron Donald, are they now the Super Bowl favorite for you? Because for me, they are now, on at least on paper, and as good as they were last year, even without Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I'm trying to say
not just NFC, but are they the Super Bowl favorite? Imagining the NFC is still the better conference, as we saw a year ago.
Yeah, but it's like the first when I thought AFC, the first team that came to my mind as like being the best team, and it would be Buffalo. I think is almost like a
well, their window's still wide open, but they need to hurry up and get through that window pretty soon. Obviously, the Patriots add AJ Brown.
Patriots are interesting. Will be
the worst kept secret in football. AJ Brown is over there now. Finally, a weapon for Drake May.
Yeah, it's not anybody. It's not.
I mean,
not
the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes isn't fully healthy. I mean,
good teams, but
do you think the Chargers are ready with Harbaugh? That's another question. They've been a playoff team, but can they take another step?
The Chargers actually got to do something in the playoffs for me to like finally, take them seriously.
Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh took them from kind of floundering to a playoff team.
Really nice looking regular season games, but then we don't ever see it never turns into anything, right?
Yeah, so. or of course, I mean, they move on from the other Harbaugh. They move on from John Harbaugh with Baltimore. Does Lamar Jackson finally get it done? You mentioned Josh Allen and the Bills. All of those teams are really, really, really good. And if any of them came out of the conference, I wouldn't be shocked. And if any of them won that game, I wouldn't be totally blown away. But the favorites are in the NFC for sure. I mean, for sure. I think the Rams are the favorite right now. It doesn't mean they're going to guaranteedly win it on paper, at least. And they've been really good in recent years. I mean, who else would you be giving me if it's not the Rams in the NFC?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Seattle's the defending champ, but to be fair, you can give it to them.
But Buffalo, some people might still give the Niners just because they like the system. They like Shanahan, they like Purdy. That's almost like a legacy type of pick.
Kittle's hurt a lot. Yeah.
Chicago and or Green Bay. But
off of the year Chicago just had, if you imagine Caleb Williams gets better again.
Yeah. So no, I don't. None of the
Detroit. Do they finally get through?
Philadelphia. Yeah, it's just so.
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia's been to 2 and won a ring recently. Jalen Hurts is still there, but now they have one less weapon. So you have him with one less weapon, A.J. Brown gone. Yeah. They're not replacing that, really. Dallas is still Dallas and kind of relevant if Dak Prescott is healthy and they're going to be talked about, but are they really a title contender? No. Do you think that the Commanders can get back to where they were a couple years ago? It would be another conversation to have. Does Atlanta or any of those Southern teams, Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield and company, do they budge up to the top because they were supposed to a year ago?
Like, again, those, we're like really good teams, but like or teams that we
they're
think
not
be
the
good,
Rams,
but they're not
like,
in a category, at least on paper, of where Los Angeles is right now.
Yeah,
So.
but this does put pressure on. I mean, let's be honest here, what they're doing, that I don't want to hear anybody out there, because this kind of happened last year, and of course you didn't have Garrett and didn't have Aaron Donald, and it was a great year, and Stafford was the MVP. But if they go to the NFC title game and lose in a close one again, may sound unfair. That's not successful. This is now about winning a championship, at minimum getting to the Super Bowl. They just were in the NFC title game. They were in the NFC title game without Garrett, without Aaron Donald. If you do that again and lose, I don't care who it is to, no. They have to at least get to the big dance again, which is back in SoFi. So every time it's there, they go. And then you really got to win it once you're there, because I imagine getting there, can you imagine how motivated Myles Garrett will be? So the pressure is on them now. But if you're a Rams fan, you want this kind of pressure. If you're Sean McVay, you want this kind of pressure. Like it's
2 years ago,
I love this.
I felt like it was theirs for the taking there, and they go into Philadelphia in the division round, and they end up giving Philadelphia, who eventually wins the Super Bowl, in a rout. The Chiefs.
They lost to the champion the last 2 years.
The best that any team played them in the playoffs in that divisional game, in the snow and in the winter, in January at Lincoln Financial. And they were that close on that game, final 2 minutes of the game there, as Stafford tried to drive them down with Nakua and guys making catches and things like that. Like, that felt like, man, LA could have won this here. And then Philadelphia, goes on and romps both Washington and then the Chiefs. So it's for all those reasons, you've got most of what all those people from 2 years ago, which was a Super Bowl level caliber team and eventually lost the Super Bowl champion, still intact. And now add in this on your defensive side, and it makes them the formidable favorite.
Yeah, and the head coach and the quarterback have already won a championship, so it's not like they haven't been there and done it, even though now it's several years ago. Yeah, it's all right there for them, even though it's a very tough division. On paper, they are the best team. They were just toe-to-toe with the Seahawks a year ago without these guys. And George, the last 2 years, they've lost to the eventual champion. So they're right there. Like, you could definitely argue they are the second best team in all of football the last couple years, and they haven't got to a Super Bowl. So, of course, that's where they want to be, which is why they're doing this trade now. But the pressure is on to get there. I mean, we've seen with NFL history, the best roster does not always go. The team with the most pressure does not always win. Hall of Famers does not always guarantee you a ring. So we will see what happens now. But either way, I'm looking forward to it, and I'd love a reality show of training camp, especially if Aaron Donald shows up. Get Hard Knocks with the Rams. They would love to do it. They're already in Los Angeles. Like, put them on. Forget anything else. This is fantastic. It does suck for Cleveland in a way to lose a premier legendary player, as much as I poke fun at Cleveland. It does suck if you're a Browns fan, but I don't think you can ask for more than this. You get a Pro Bowl caliber player who's 25, who's much younger. You get a first-round draft pick. You get several other draft picks. This is more than other players similar did go for. Garrett is an older player now, despite the sacks record. You won 5 games with 23 sacks. Like, his sacks did not help you win. Your team is not close yet. If somebody would have said you traded Myles Garrett for just the first-round pick because the Browns have messed up drafts before, then I could see being a little upset. Okay. But even if the Browns mess up that draft pick, they got Jared Verse, at least, who was a clear top draft pick that worked out for them with the Rams and now coming over to you. So this is great for the Browns. Doesn't guarantee them anything either, though. They could still mess it up. They got to, they're better off to suck this coming year, but then they got to really go to the draft after that. And sucks for Todd Monken a little bit there. He's showing up thinking he's coaching Myles Garrett, and now he's coaching, a losing team yet again, probably for his first time as a head coach. But this is the best the Browns could really do in this. And I do buy what's being said, that if Jared Verse was not in the deal, this deal would not be happening. And because Jared Verse was put in the deal, they pulled the trigger on it. So maybe that lends some credence to the previous lies of, we're not going to do this. Well, the previous offers didn't have Jared Verse there. So now he is. And unfortunate for him, George, imagine if you're Jared Verse, you're a game away from the Super Bowl. You weren't there when they won because you're only 2 years into your career. You now have to move from Los Angeles, California to Cleveland, Ohio, and go from a Super Bowl caliber team to the freaking Cleveland Browns. That's rough. He's going to get some money. That's rough. So I don't envy him in that regard. It's unfortunate. You're going from LA to Cleveland and then from the Rams to the Browns. It's not exactly the greatest situation for Verse. I don't care how many comments he's throwing out there, what he's saying on social media, or all the smiles in the videos, he can't be happy. You just can't be really happy in that scenario. Like, I know George Gerbo's vacationed in Cleveland and not LA many times, despite right now being on the West Coast in Vegas. But no, you don't want to prefer Cleveland and the Browns over LA and the Rams any day of the week. And I don't care what's going on in LA. It's still better than Cleveland. We're talking about Cleveland, Ohio.
A team that is similar in some ways to the Rams in a different sport is the Vegas Golden Knights, who are on their third trip to the Stanley Cup Final in their 9 seasons of existence.
Yeah,
and
their head coach getting them there too.
Their head coach getting them there, and have put together a roster of. We went from the original, the Misfits as they were called during that expansion draft era that came together. They lose a cup to the Capitals. They eventually beat Florida a few years later. And get one for their own. And here they are back in the Stanley Cup Final against a Carolina Hurricanes team that has mostly blitzkrieged through this playoff, save for, and you can do the argument, both teams had, quote unquote, easier paths or whatnot. Carolina's goes through Ottawa, Philadelphia.
Carolina's is even easier. Carolina's was easier. 100%.
Carolina's was easier. And Montreal takes them as far as as best as they can in their series, and then here we are in the Stanley Cup Final, and Carolina feels like they've been outplayed for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 periods.
Yeah, third period, game 2, not the case. Otherwise,
5.5 periods of the 6 plus that have been played in this series. The plus comes as game 2 goes to overtime, and Carolina turns it around in a matter of 2 minutes in the middle of the period. They scored 2 goals in 2.5 minutes, right just past the halfway point of the third period, which is really the crunch time when you needed to see something. And then the Hurricanes win it in overtime and 3-2. And so now a series split as opposed to losing your 2 games at home. And as we talked about beforehand, Mike, teams have gone down 0-2, but generally you've not gone down 0-2 on your home ice and come back.
Yeah, that would have been the scenario. Yeah.
A different level of scenario there as opposed to losing those games on the road. Again, the home team is generally favored in these types of atmospheres, but Carolina, big win for them. And now the series is level as it heads west out here to Las Vegas over the weekend for games and into next week for games 3 and 4. There's a weird little, 2-day break in between 3 and 4 there. So, Carolina I keep going back to rust versus rest in my head, and that's not the right phrase I want to use here because Carolina drops that first game to Montreal and then wins the other 4, right? So, the team that had 12, 13 days off lost game 1 of the series, but they came back and overwhelmed.
Yeah, and we'll get to the NBA Finals here in a moment, but it's not an issue there. The Knicks have been off and had the most rust in every one of their series and have been winning and now riding a 12-game win streak as we're talking here on June.
Carolina at home with that atmosphere they have in Raleigh in that arena, which is notoriously loud. It's an older arena. The roof is kind of low in it, and it keeps the sound in and amplified.
Yeah, it's a college atmosphere, really.
Yeah. Right next to NC State's football stadium as well there in Raleigh. You have all that going, and they've gotten out to a slow start in both of these games. Vegas scores the first 2 goals in game 1, and then they get out to the fast start, but let Vegas back into it, and so everything becomes equal, and then Vegas overpowers them. So you had the fast start, and then you relinquish it, and then in game 2. It's Vegas that gets out to the fast start, and you've got to play catch up to them. Right. But at the same time, there is this, even with the 2 goals in the first game by Ehlers, Mike, there's this, you're letting the other team back into it right away. So they're not sustaining whatever they're trying to put together early on in this game and making it last. They're either playing catch up one way, like they did in game 2 after Vegas came back and took the lead, or you're playing catch up in game 1 and catch up in game 2. Vegas dominated the play, and it wasn't for sloppiness on Carolina's part. The back checking is good. The defense was good on 5-on-5. Vegas's first 2 goals in game 2 were breakout style goals and just an incredible individual effort on the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're Carolina, you've got to be proud in the way that you played defensively, and Anderson didn't really give up any soft ones. But at the same time, it was so hard for them to generate offensive chances all game. And after the first 2 goals in the first game, for a team that pretty much scored at will for most of this playoffs, Vegas has found an answer there, at least here in the early going, to kind of put them aside. Now, Vegas lets them back in tonight and a big momentum swing in the middle of the period where they score those 2 goals. But if you're Carolina, it's got to concern you a little bit that you're not able to sustain and be a little more potent firepower-wise in terms of offense.
What we're seeing from the Carolina Hurricanes is why some had hesitation in picking them to even come out of the East or be the Stanley Cup champion. You don't have Florida there. The Penguins were eliminated early. The Capitals didn't make it. All of the previous problems for Carolina through the last real 5 years to a decade, they're years where they've had solid teams and made a conference final, made multiple conference finals, and then couldn't really win games there and got blown their doors off pretty quickly, namely to Florida in recent years in the midst of their dynasty, the second best team in the East, the bridesmaid, but not the bride of the last 20 years since the franchise last won a cup and won their only cup in 2006 when Brendan Moore was a player, now the head coach for this iteration of the Hurricanes. But the reason why there was hesitation is, in the simplest terms, in net. And it's not that Anderson's been bad or that he would be single-handedly at fault if they don't win this series, but he was a career backup going into this season, really. He had a playoff run with the Maple Leafs years ago when he is why they did not get out of that, and he did play poorly. Just ask Toronto fans. In this season, George, Anderson was pretty much the 1A, the 1A, 1B. He was pretty much the 1B. He was behind Brendan Bussey, the younger, inexperienced goaltender, and Brandon Bussey won 30 games. Now, neither one of them was great. Both of them had save percentages below 900. We are not in the 1980s. This is 2026. If your save percentage is in the 800s, that's not really great. That's not good. And I understand that Anderson entered the Stanley Cup Final on an historic pace. We're talking about Chris Osgood in 08. We're talking about Jaguar in that 03 run. We're talking about Ken Dryden with these great runs of barely allowing any goals against you. But here's the difference. Anderson barely saw any shots to not allow those goals. He wasn't doing a Jaguar situation where he stood in his head. John Sebastian Jaguar was facing 30 shots a night against 10 Hall of Famers and wouldn't let anything in. Yeah. And I mean, no, literally, there are 10 members of the Red Wings who are in the Hall of Fame already enshrined. They were the defending champions in 2003. They then lost to the Ducks that next year. That was the last year Fedorov was there. He then would go to the Ducks. They had 10 Hall of Famers that were carried over from that team in 2002 that just won the cup. And then, of course, Jaguar stands on his head, ends up as the Conn Smythe winner in a losing effort, losing 7 games. Mike Babcock, ironically, the head coach, and they lose to New Jersey. And that was pretty much on Jaguar's back, and it was one of the better goaltending runs we've ever seen. And going into this cup final, there were a lot of graphics that were comparing Anderson and Jaguar because of the goals allowed. It's nuts. Anderson literally had games where he only faced 12 shots. 12 shots the whole game through. Montreal, the reason why they're not there and playing right now, they couldn't figure out a way to pepper the net. They could not figure out a way to pepper the net. Whenever they would get shots off, they could score, but they just could not pepper the net, get enough offensive chances. They couldn't do it enough. And then I do feel Carolina, and their fans are always mad at me when I host the Locked On NHL Game Night shows because they think I poo-poo the Carolina run. They faced a Ottawa team that was pretty banged up and had Brady Tkachuk and pretty much nobody else in terms of health at that point. It's an Ottawa team that deserved to be there because they won when Detroit and others collapsed, but they weren't going to win that series for me. I don't care who else thought they were. Carolina had the better roster. They won that series. They did it in a sweep. They then faced Philadelphia, who, they were better than the Penguins, but at the end of the Penguins series, Pittsburgh started getting better. Philadelphia, very young. They weren't supposed to be there either. They got exposed. And I do feel that if they played the Penguins, they would have still won the series, but Pittsburgh might have won a game or two. Philadelphia was just outmatched and outclassed in that second round series. Carolina had an easier path. They faced two teams that they pretty much would have beat no matter what, and most other teams to their level would have beat them too. And yes, they beat Montreal. That's a big win. Montreal was great. Montreal had 2 7-game series wins before that, whereas Carolina's going in there really, really rested. That ended up becoming a difference. And again, Anderson did not face that many shots. They're in the Cup final. They deserve to be there. Great. It still counts. It's a banner whether you win or lose the Stanley Cup. But they had an easier path, and we are seeing it now. They are getting outplayed by Vegas, but they have a never say die attitude. They have a lot of depth in scoring. Jordan Staal is playing like he did on the 09 Penguins, like he's having a renaissance here in his first Cup final appearance since then. And they're looking really, really good. But if they don't win this Cup, if they end up not as the champion, I do believe it's going to be because they don't have the better player in net. Anderson is not as good as Hart. He's just not. I mean, say what you want about him. I know he's obviously a controversial and very polarizing figure here, but yeah. Carter Hart stood on his head through this postseason. He had a little bit of an issue in the first round. John Tortorella stuck with his guy, stubbornly said, I'm sticking with my guy. And then ever since really game 3 of the first round, he has been great. He has been one of the better goaltenders through these playoffs. He's been battle tested. And you could argue Vegas had a little easy path too. Here's the issue. I understand the Colorado fans have a little bit of an excuse because Makar missed the first 2 games. If he did play, I do think they probably win at least one of them. His absence was a big deal. You could argue he's actually the MVP of that team with what he does defensively and offensively. Him being out those first 2 games and then being less than 100% later in the series was a big deal for sure. Nathan MacKinnon in that third period of a pivotal game didn't have burst, told his coach, I barely can give you anything. Obviously, he's really hurt to say that to the head coach. He wasn't 100% either. So Colorado was not full strength, and you could kind of argue that we didn't get to see the full-on Colorado effort from the regular season against Vegas. But the reason why that excuse does not count for me and does not hold mustard for me, it was a sweep, and it wasn't close. I mean, you had the one game Colorado had the 3-0 lead, and then Vegas came back and won it. That was maybe the only close one. The other games were all Vegas. Vegas was the better team all week, all day, everything, twice on Sunday in that series. They took their soul. Yeah, they demoralized them. Yes.
The faces of Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar on the bench, like they demoralized the hell out of them.
Yeah, they made it so that Colorado, by the time game 4 hit, they weren't even really trying. That effort in game 4 was horrible. Like Colorado realized, why even go worry about game 5? Let's go home and go on the golf course. We're not going to beat this team. I do think it might have been different if MacKinnon and Makar were fully healthy. At least it would have been a longer series. Colorado was so great. I mean, if you take Mark Stone and Eichel off, and Mark Stone did miss a couple games, but if you take Eichel off the nights, if you take Hurdle off the nights, if you take Carter Hart off the nights and he's all hurt, how good are they? They're very, very deep though, but Colorado had their 2 best players out for a lot of it, or they weren't 100%. That is part of the story, but they dominated. They demoralized. They were the better team. They deserved to win it, and they showed it. And that's still a great series win because that's the President's Trophy winner. That definitely means more to me than a banged-up Montreal team who was exhausted, or Ottawa or Philadelphia, and that was Carolina's path.
Yeah. See, I think there's there's part of me that felt series could be like 5 games for Carolina, and they would win, or
really
Vegas in 5 games. Still could happen, right?
I had Vegas in 6 going in.
Yeah, it feels like these teams could both overwhelm each other. I don't think it's one of these. It does not have the kind of, at least not yet. And that's kind of the fun thing about series and just like watching them develop and play out, right? We got a fun back and forth, high scoring affair in game 1. We got a little more tighter defensive battle in game 2.
Yeah.
I don't feel the energy there yet for it to be this drawn out 7-game back and forth, goaltender steals a game, all that other type of stuff.
I mean, game 2 was a must win for Carolina, or this would have been a quick series.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Those hallmarks we like to see in a deep series. or series that go deep, but I could be, yeah, we'll see if that is different and not the case. In basketball, we've got kind of the same thing here where we're hoping, where we've seen the Knicks
could go long, or maybe the Knicks just take care of business again. The Knicks don't play long series, George.
I don't believe has yet reckoned with the fact that the Knicks not only may win an NBA World Championship, but that also in doing so, they are a wagon in doing it.
Well, I will tease this, and we
being this little plucky team that chips away at things. We're not used to the Knicks just boat racing people, and that's what they did in the first game of their series against 10 points. But they
had to have a comeback. It certainly wasn't a boat racing, but they were the better team. They had to have a comeback in the mix there. And Jalen Brunson wasn't at his best. He had 30 points, but was under 40% in shooting. He was injured early in the game. It didn't seem to matter. He told Scott Foster off at the end of the game, like he's a G out there. So I will tease that not only, as we go to break here, not only are the Knicks maybe on the verge of winning the first championship for that franchise in 53 years and breaking that drought, and we get another seminal drought out of all the sports curses and droughts we've seen go down in this century in these last 26 years. They're now in their first finals in 27 years, since 99, capping off the last century. But, George, my tease is we could start arguing this Knicks 2026 playoff run, if they would win the title, is literally the greatest playoff run in sports history.
Wow.
You could actually argue it. You could actually argue it. I've been writing about it a little bit, not even just NBA. You could argue it beyond that. And I'm going to add something to it after the break here. I don't think you have another team that has been this dominant, at least not since game 3 of the first round.
Buzzsaw makes big accusations next on the Howitzer and Buzzsaw show. Welcome back inside the Howitzer and Buzzsaw show. George, the Howitzer, Gerbo.
Mike, the Buzzsaw hot take artist, Asti.
Man,
I will let the blades fly to hot takes on this one, and I will plant my flag here. They have to finish the job, but again, George, we are 12 games in to this. This is a 12-game win streak right now. A 12-game win streak for the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
They have won by double digits in, I believe, all but one of these games.
Mm-hmm.
And double digits is just 10 or more, so that includes the game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Yep.
Several of the games, they won by 30+. Pretty much most of the games, they won by at least 20+. This just was by 10 against the Spurs. And the only 2 games they've lost the entirety of the postseason, because at one point, nobody will remember this, but at one point they were down 2-1 in the first round, and C.J. McConnell was looking like the New York villain and was leading the Hawks to potentially an upset. Mm-hmm. Both of those 2 losses for the Knicks were by 1 point each. They're literally 2 single points, 2 points, 1 overall basket away from being undefeated right now through the postseason. And we talked about easy pass for Carolina, and, it could be argued to be relevant a little bit for the Knicks. Maybe it wasn't fully murderer's row. However, when Philadelphia was upsetting the Celtics, who people thought was the favorite with Tatum back in a 7-game series, nobody was saying that Philadelphia was nothing. They were saying, well, now they're fully healthy. They could make some noise. Maybe they're finally going to go somewhere. But when the Knicks sweep them, all of a sudden they're an easy opponent. They just beat the Celtics. So the team that you think is easy dethroned and beat the Celtics, who were the favorite coming into the postseason for most. If you're the New York Knicks, you are riding a 12-game win streak going now into game 2 of the NBA Finals as we are speaking right now. You already have one win on the road. You're coming off back-to-back sweeps. Most of your wins are by double digits, if not by 20 or 30 points. You already have tied the record for 25 three-pointers in a game for most three-pointers in a postseason game. Jalen Brunson is doing things that no Knick has ever done, and this includes Walt Frazier, this includes Bernard King, this includes Earl the Pearl Monroe. This includes whoever you want to give me, and certainly Patrick Ewing, even on the 94 team and even in 99 when he was hurt and that was an 8 seed. This is already the greatest run and maybe the greatest postseason run for the Knicks in their history. They just have to finish the job. There has been really no NBA team that has ever been this dominant. We've seen some teams go through the whole thing. We've seen some with 1 loss, with 2 losses. We've seen some have great players and multiple Hall of Famers. We've seen most of the NBA champions have a myriad of Hall of Famers and be dominant maybe through a playoff run. But even the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant did not have this margin of victory. This margin of victory is nuts, is insane, and this is the most dominating based on the numbers and margin of victory 12-game stretch as we are speaking here on June 5th. Look this up. This is the most dominant 12-game stretch of any kind in the regular season or the playoffs in NBA history. And dare I say, George, which is why I said sports history, name me an example of a champion or any playoff team that went on a 12 or more game streak this dominant. Because I had somebody on another show bring up what we talked about before, Vegas over Colorado, how dominant they were. You know what the equivalent of this would be? If Vegas beat Colorado by 4 goals every game. They didn't do that. They won. They were the better team. Sure. The Knicks have been destroying teams. And as Charles Barkley said, they haven't just been winning. They've been taking your lunch money and punching you in the face as they would leave the playground. That's what they've been doing so far through the postseason. There is no the Yankees in 98 with all the money they spent. They won in a sweep over the Padres. They weren't doing it like this. They didn't win every game by 6 runs. Like, what is the example of someone doing it this way, this dominant, double digits all the time, like this?
Even the Warriors teams that did win, those were still some series in there, right? To play.
Well, the 2017 team, which is the most dominant of the Warriors, they won a lot of games in a row. I believe they have the record for the most playoff games won in a row, which is still more, and the Knicks would need a sweep to tie them. But they didn't win all these games by 20-plus points. They weren't winning every game by 20-plus points. I mean, they were not doing this.
If I gave you, as devil's advocate, the irony being
I gotta have another example though. What's the other one?
No, not in terms of other examples, but devil's advocate being 2 things. A, the irony that it was the Atlanta Hawks in the first round that took them to 6 games of all teams.
Yeah, that is
but
odd.
That perhaps this isn't that the Donovan Mitchell sad sack looking
Cavaliers
like they didn't
rough,
try Cleveland Cavaliers and the 4 wins that those were for the Knicks. Perhaps we're not the best opponent during this thing.
No, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Philadelphia, you could argue a better team, not the Philadelphia of, mid-process era and to the point where Philadelphia fired Daryl Morey and hired former West Virginia Mountaineer and Cleveland director of basketball operations Mike Gansey to take the position in Philadelphia. So that's how bad Philadelphia's sweep at the hands of the Knicks were. But to argue that these teams, Atlanta,
the issue is they beat Boston though. Like
the best selection of teams.
Yeah,
I Knicks a little bit.
Sure, but when the Lakers had their three-peat and they're facing off against the Pacers with Reggie Miller and mostly role players, granted, you had Mullen there who was at the end of his career. Like, that was pretty much Reggie Miller as the only star. You had the Sixers where it was Allen Iverson by himself as the offensive force and a great defensive team, but it was just him against Kobe and Shaq. You had the Nets. I mean, those were mismatches. And yes, the Lakers were dominant, but they didn't romp the floor all through all those postseason games. They had some hiccups every now and then. If you remember, George, in the early portion of their dynasty, they should have lost to the Portland Trailblazers. The Portland Trailblazers had them on the ropes in a game 7. Then Shaq is putting his finger in the air and Kobe's jumping on him and they have this great comeback. I mean, the Trailblazers should have freaking won that series in the Western Conference Finals. You go to the Kings series. I mean, To this day, if you talk to Chris Webber, he thinks that was fixed. So you need a referee throwing things and fixing it for the books to get you through, despite all the Hall of Famers you had. Yes, the Warriors were very, very dominant, but they also would lose games. LeBron was leading points, rebounds, and assists through some of those finals games. He should have been MVP in a losing effort for me. Like, his teams were mismatched at times too with all the injuries, and they didn't win everything in a sweep too. They did it once, but the other ones, they would lose games. I mean, the Lakers back in the 80s, they had their issues. The Celtics had their issues. They had their hiccups. These teams weren't just sweeping and destroying everybody by 20 points. Even going back to Bill Russell's Celtics, as many championships as they won. They had some longer series. They had some 7-game series. They had some times where maybe they weren't going to win despite having the best players on that team and stacked rosters in comparison to the field. And Jordan's Bulls, they didn't win every one of those 6 finals and sweeps. I mean, they had long series with the Utah Jazz. That was a 6-game series. They didn't go to 7, but they went to 6 a couple of times. You had the push off there at the end. Jordan's the GOAT, but that was a push off at the end. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, that's the reality of the situation. What are you going to, the only thing you can pick apart, what you just did, is the competition. But again, Philadelphia did beat the Boston Celtics, who people thought was the favorite. So I don't buy that, because if you can beat the favorite, you can't say the opponent's not good. And then, yes, Cleveland was probably done. They probably had reached their ceiling. They probably had peaked. They probably were exhausted. That was a mismatch. But again, these aren't close games. They're not getting through the skin of their teeth. They're punching in the face, taking your lunch money, and dominating you and embarrassing you in a way. That's how dominant the Knicks have been. And I can even give you some analysis on how this happened. You mentioned that, oh, is it amazing? The Hawks had that 2-1 series lead and McCollum scored all those points. You do know the New York Knicks, and this is a credit to Mike Brown, who took over for Thibodeau, that took them as far as they've been in 25 years. He got fired. Some thought it wasn't fair, but Mike Brown came over, had not been a head coach on a finals team since 2007, even though he'd been an assistant through those Warriors teams in that run, revitalized his legacy in his career maybe, and he's done a great job, because in the middle of the postseason, when they were down 2-1 in that first round series, George, he changed their offensive game plan. It went from going through Jalen Brunson, who has been just a generational all-time great for the Knicks since coming over from Dallas, a great free agent signing, one of the best ever for what he's about to accomplish. He's been a scoring machine in the postseason for the Knicks in recent years. But he took the offense from going through Jalen Brunson as a smaller player, and there's not been many smaller players at his size to lead a team to a title. We're talking Isaiah Thomas. We're talking Steph Curry. That's really it. That's what you would be 6'2" and under in terms of champions. So he took it away. Now, Brunson's still the best player on the team and the leader, but instead of the offense going through him, the offense then got moved to go through Karl Anthony Towns. He's the big that matches up with Wemby. He matches up with whoever you have there. It goes through Towns, and Towns can decide, do I dish it out to Brunson? Do I put it over here to Bridges, who was struggling earlier in the playoffs and now he's hitting shots? Do I give it to Josh Hart? Do I take it myself because I can either shoot outside or go inside with my size? I get the rebounds all day, every day. And since they did that, the Knicks have been unbeatable. Since that move, they've been unbeatable.
The way that, there's part of me good on Mike Brown, because Mike Brown.
It's hard to make that decision to take the offense away from somebody who's your best player in the middle of a play.
And like legacy, and I'll cop to this a little bit. He owes the knock on Mike Brown is just like he owes LeBron a lot in his for
the 2007 finals was LeBron taking him there
and being but like that, propagate the NBA perhaps more than even hockey and any other league is one where when guys fall out of coaching jobs or lose coaching jobs or get fired or whatever, they can come back in. Hell, you can be Doc Rivers and be on television for multiple years and then come back in and then suck at it again.
Although Mike Brown got a raw deal with the Kings. I mean, he took them to the playoffs and they got rid of him pretty soon after that. I don't know what they expected there. He had a raw deal with the Kings.
And then after all the things Phil Jackson has coached the Knicks in the last 20 years. Tom Thibodeau's
he ran basketball operations.
Ran the whole the Dolans kind of. We talked about the Browns earlier. the Dolan's brothers are the ones have a presence in Cleveland and currently on the baseball team, and Larry, who owns the Knicks and a whole bunch of other things.
I mean, Rangers fans hate James Dolan. That franchise is going in the tubes, and yet the Knicks are soaring.
It's like it's that very classic American sports juxtaposition where you've got the owner who's got filthy, crazy money in his pockets, but also can't can't run just meddles too much and just doesn't settle on the actual operation side, hockey ops or basketball ops or whatever it is. And finally, it felt like Tibbs was going to be it for a while, and that it was going to work, and that perhaps they cut and was like, okay, here we go.
People were even saying that James Dolan was staying out of basketball operations and he wasn't going to make knee-jerk moves. And then, of course, they go to the conference finals, they don't win, and then he makes a knee-jerk move and gets rid of Thibodeau. Yeah. But again, to James Dolan's credit, everything he has said so far has come true. He went on WFAN in the middle of the winter and said, we should go to the finals and we should win. They're in the finals and they should win. Far it's working out, and he has Mike Brown over there. But to give Mike Brown credit, because yes, he built his resume thanks to LeBron, who then helped him get these other jobs based on the original finals appearance that's on his resume. But he's still a decent coach. He's been an assistant on some championship teams with Golden State. He's seen somebody else do this, and he's proven himself through this postseason. His team has actually, as much as Thibodeau got a raw deal, you could argue after that great run to be fired, and the farthest they've been in 25 years to be fired sucked. But the Knicks have been better offensively under Mike Brown. Even if they're a little worse defensively, they are so good offensively, it doesn't matter. They're winning every game by double digits. They're scoring 120, 130 points. Like, it doesn't matter what they do defensively, and they're still good there. He's unlocked Karl-Anthony Towns. Towns is way better under him than he was under Tibbs. Knicks fans wanted him traded under Tibbs. And now under Mike Brown, do you hear about Giannis anymore? No, they're good, as is. I mean, that's the big loser here. Giannis is probably saying, I finally asked out, and now the team I want to go to is going to win a title without me. I can't go there now. They don't want me, or they don't need me. That's how dominant the Knicks have been. They're actually better off not moving. And to James Dolan's credit again, George, as much as he's had a poor 20 years before this year, and he made some knee-jerk moves, and even when he brought in Carmelo Anthony, that was great, but he traded half the team to get him, and it kind of ruined their chance to contend, and they just got to the second round with Melo. But James Dolan, in his previous iteration, in his previous mindset, if Giannis was out there, he would have offered the whole friggin' team, the whole draft slot, and would have brought Giannis in, and they wouldn't have got out of the second round because nobody else would have been around Giannis. Instead of being knee-jerk and trying to go get the flashy star, he said, this team is good as is. We're not going to make a crazy move. They stood pat. They stubbornly did nothing. People criticized it and said, I can't believe they're not doing anything to go further in a wide-open conference. And as is, I mean, not only are they the best team in the Eastern Conference, it wasn't close. It was not close. So to James Dolan's credit, that whoever convinced him, he pulled back and just let everybody be. Mike Brown tinkered, and the moves have worked. James Dolan gets credit. Mike Brown gets credit. Even Jalen Brunson has to get credit for not being selfish. And when the coach comes to you in game 3 of a first-round series, when you arguably have been the best playoff player in your franchise history, certainly this century, and says we're going to move the offense to somebody else, even though you're still on the team, we're going to go through someone else. He could have, we know the NBA. If that was James Harden in his prime, he would have been, in China saying this guy's a liar. He would have been on social media yelling. To Jalen Brunson credit, no problem. I want to win. I'm a winning player for my national titles at Villanova. And he did it, and now he's scoring 30 points, even if he's not at the focal point of the offense. Like, he's found a way to do it, even if it's going through Towns. This team, we've reached a level here, George. This is what I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. So we're only one game in as we're recording this on June 5th. Nothing is a guarantee. We've not even talked about the Spurs yet in Wembanyama, who is a legendary force. They are a very, very young team. They're the youngest team to get to a finals. Wembanyama's 22 freaking years old, 23 years old, George. They're going to go to more finals. They're going to probably win championships. It's a guarantee. They're going to face the Thunder again, I'm sure, who are also going to be back. And, let's be honest. We talk about the Colorado Avalanche being injury-riddled and that being a problem in that series against Vegas. The Thunder went to 7 games. They didn't get swept. They didn't have their second best player in Williams, who was not effective and not able to be on the court a lot. And Chet Holmgren might as well have not played because he was terrified of Wembanyama and he couldn't even take a shot in the second half. It was really Shea by himself against a better Spurs team that had their number through the regular season. So that was kind of a mismatch, and it had to go 7. The Spurs have had deep runs and deep series, and they've had to play a lot more games than the Knicks, and maybe we're seeing that too. But they're still a great team. They're a year ahead of – you could argue the Spurs are a year ahead of schedule. Like, they weren't supposed to be here. They're a year ahead of schedule. But with all of that said, here's where we are with the Knicks, and I'm going to scare some Knicks fans now. We have reached a point where they have the most dominant playoff run ever, maybe in sports history to this point, certainly in these 12 games, that if they do not win the NBA championship, it will have to be viewed as blowing it. They are up 1-0 with a double-digit win. They have, I think, 5 30-point wins in these 12 games. I'm sorry.
The entire Eastern Conference.
They just won one on the road. They just won one on the road. So even if they lose game 2, and that could happen, they're eventually going to lose. Even if they lose game 2, then they go to Madison Square Garden. Trump's going to be there. They're going to be in every Knick alum is going to be there. It's going to be the most insane environment we've ever seen from an NBA Finals game this freaking century. I mean, that's going to be a big advantage for them. If they win one of those games, and then they even got a split going into a short series in games 5, 6, and 7, they still have an edge. They could do it. I mean, they already have one of these. They're playing better than the Spurs. They played less games. They're more rested. They're fresher. They're arguably more experienced, even though they're also a young team. If they would somehow not win this title, I hate to say this, but it would take a little bit luster away from one of the most dominant playoff runs ever, and it would feel like they're blowing it because it's right there for them now. It doesn't matter that it was 53 years ago when the franchise last won. Who gives a damn? Like, this is about right now. Those players are irrelevant to right now. This is more dominant than those teams were that had long series to get those titles. This is it. This is not a 7-gamer in 94 when you could argue the Knicks blew it. This is not when they were an 8 freaking seed and lost to the Spurs in 5 games in 99 when they should never have been there, and getting there was a big deal, and Patrick Ewing was hurt and didn't play in the series. This is a 100% full-go Knicks team that is off a 12-game win streak where they win every game by double digits. And I know that they've had one player that's hurt a little bit, but he's not even a star. Like, we're picking apart this team. The stars are there and healthy. Certainly, if they win game 2, then they got both on the road, then they're going home. This is right there for the Knicks. The Spurs are a year ahead of schedule, but the Knicks are a major favorite to get this job done now, only needing 3 more wins.
Give me a final thought on San Antonio, and specifically that as much as, you know, we love watching Victor Wembanyama and how his dynamicism, his size, what he can do, the threes, the inside presence, all of that in just 2 years in the league, as you point out, is
defensive player of the year already.
Yeah. Is there perhaps a level of, and not just him, but focused around him and the whole team, of fatigue from what was the best series of the playoffs against Oklahoma City? You know, in games that were really weren't competitive, but they were, you know, very back and forth in terms of who had the upper hand and how teams would kind of rip off scoring runs in each of those games between the Thunder and the Spurs. But going that full length and doing a lot in that series. And again, you mentioned you still, you know, drops 30, but shot selection and just the completion shooting percentage was just wildly off. And, you know, ends up in a 10-point game, which, you know, is a small number these days, ends up being the difference of him making a few more shots. Is there any level of fatigue that you think from it's only his second year in the playoffs, it's the deepest he's ever gone in the playoffs, and having come off a 7-game series against the defending champions?
Yeah, I mean, this is a 30-win turnaround from a year ago. I mean, they weren't a playoff team a year ago. And Chris Paul, unlucky again to just miss the boat on the Thunder, miss the boat on the Spurs. Like, he is just missing the boat. All these former teams of his that are going far. This is Wembanyama's first run through the postseason, and he gets to the freaking NBA Finals. So he has to do it in long series. He has to do it against a Thunder team that was kind of banged up. And George, I'll ask this. If the Thunder had Williams at 100%, he was never 100% the entire season, and Chet Holmgren was not terrified to face Wembanyama because he wouldn't even shoot the ball in the second half. If they were
shots in one bucket in game
if they were 100%, would the Spurs even be here? The Thunder probably would have won the series. It was a 7-game series, and the third best player on one of the teams was basically admittedly scared to play. That, I mean, if you get everybody to be what they were a year ago, whether it be physically or mentally, the Thunder probably advance again and are looking for a repeat. So that's part of this too. The Spurs are a year ahead of schedule. To do this in Wembanyama's first run through the postseason is incredible, but it's not so much of rest versus rust, meaning if you have a long layoff, because the Knicks have disproved that. We've seen Vegas disprove that. Mark Messier on this broadcast hates talking about that.
Having gone through such a long series whereas
it's playing more games, playing overall more games
and knocked out 2 teams, right?
Yeah, it's playing more games. Like you don't want to
in a week.
You don't want to play more games than you have to. If you feel like you're good enough to win a series earlier, you better win it earlier. You don't want to drag out a series, even if you eventually win. The wear and tear on your body to play through 4 rounds of a gauntlet 2-month ride to win a championship, whether we're talking the Stanley Cup playoffs in hockey or the NBA playoffs in basketball, it's just a gauntlet and too damn hard to maximize yourself with playing more games. You want to maximize your potential by playing as few games as possible. You don't want to play more games than you need to. And the Spurs have played a lot of games, a lot more games than the Knicks. So that's part of it. It's not so much the rest versus rust in terms of days off. It's the amount of games the Spurs have had to play in comparison to the Knicks. And in addition to that, how many times in NBA history have we seen a team in their first playoff run together go ahead and win a championship? It almost never happens. We've seen it a couple times where they go to the finals, like the Shaq Penny Magic back in the mid-90s. They went there out of nowhere. Their first run through the playoffs, they went to the finals, and then they got swept to Hakeem Olajuwon and the Rockets in 94.
Jokic in Denver a minute to do it as well.
Yeah, well, what I'm getting at is there have been very rare instances where a team or a group, no matter how great the players, go through a postseason, go all the way to the finals, win a championship, almost never having it happen, win a championship, but even go to the finals where there's been no scar tissue, no playoff run prior, no getting through one hurdle and getting over something else. Jordan had to get through the Pistons. The Celtics had to get through the Sixers back in the 80s with Bird. The Lakers had to get through somebody. I mean, teams have to get through people. Like, the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe had to get through the Jazz, had to get through the Spurs. The Spurs had to get through the Lakers. The Heat with LeBron and the Big Three had to get through Boston, who had to previously get through LeBron. Everybody has to get through somebody, generally speaking. And even the Golden State Warriors in their run with the 4 rings, they had to get through KD and Russell Westbrook's Thunder, who got to finals. They had to get through them to make it happen. Somebody has to get through somebody. But with the Spurs this year, they had to get through the Thunder, you could argue, in the conference finals for sure as the defending champs, and they kind of cried and acted like that was their title. But this is their first playoff run together. Yeah, the Joker had a loss or two before he won. Most players through NBA history have had a loss or two, had some scar tissue before they win a championship. This Spurs team has had no scar tissue. They've never faced with Wembanyama a postseason series loss. They're going to, maybe now, and they're going to win championships too. They're going to get back and win titles. But this might be one of those examples, like with Shaq and Penny, like others, where you get there, maybe it's a year ahead of schedule. That group got broken up and they didn't end up winning a title. I think Wembanyama is going to stay and they're going to win some rings. But they're very, very young. They just might be ahead of things. They just might not be ready. The Knicks last year lost in the conference finals a year earlier. They've been building up to this. They have the scar tissue. They have the hunger. They've tasted playoff defeat when they thought they should win. That's not happened yet with the Spurs. So throughout NBA history, for the Spurs to win this title, it would arguably be even more historic than the Knicks doing it for the first time in 53 years. We've not seen any iteration of any team, with a legend or not, go through with no scar tissue, no previous postseason failure, and go ahead and win a championship. And that's what you would need the Spurs to do here. So all the games they've played, the wear and tear on the games they've played, Wembanyama being so young as the best player despite them being deep, and just the fact that we've not seen this before, a lot of that history goes against the Knicks or goes against the Spurs. A lot of that goes in favor of the Knicks. A lot of just history, the season, the postseason, how it's unfolded, a lot of that goes against the Spurs here. So there's so much on the line here, and there's so much that would tell you that there's almost no way the Knicks don't win this. I mean, if the Knicks are even in game 7, it seems crazy. The Knicks should win this title. People should get terms with it. It's going to happen. Again, it would be blowing it if they don't, but the Spurs will be back. But this just feels like a year ahead of schedule to me. And, you know, if you want to get analytical on them, Wembanyama's always dominant with his size. He's always a dominant force defensively. Nobody can deal with him really. But in game 1 of the NBA Finals, it looked like he sacrificed defense for offense. Mm-hmm. There are times that he still gets criticized. If you hear the ESPN crew with Ernie and Kenny and Shaq and Chuck, they often bring up that Wembanyama sometimes takes still too many threes. He still tries to shoot those threes. You got to go to the paint. He's just such a force. He's going to be way better than he is now. Like, this is how scary this is, George. We are seeing Wembanyama at maybe his worst of his career taking you to the finals. Yeah. He's going to get better. But this is the year for the Knicks. They got to do this now. This is the Knicks' time. The window's not as wide for the Knicks as it is for San Antonio for another decade to keep getting back. The Knicks now up. They got to do this. I don't care about everything else about history. They got to do this now. And then they don't have to worry about not wanting to hang a banner for the NBA Cup. They can hang this banner all day for this NBA championship. And, you know, they can give all the charity rings to all the alumni that didn't win one. Like, this is the next time for me. And they've been so dominant that if they finish this job, certainly if it's a quick early series, certainly if it's a sweep, it's right up there with one of the most dominating postseason runs, not only in NBA history, but sports history. And if you take away the first 2 games and those 1-point losses to CJ McConnell and the freaking Hawks, CJ McCollum and the Hawks, this Knicks team has been better than anyone we've ever seen any playoff run. I mean, these are blowout wins. Even 10-pointer is a blowout win. So nothing's a guarantee. I'd like to have a long series as a fan of this, but maybe some rest will help the Spurs, but I don't know. I mean, I'm going Knicks finishing this off in 5. I think the Spurs and Wembanyama will get one, but the Knicks finish this off in 5. Where are you? And I would have said 6 going into the series, but after watching game 1 and we're recording this before game 2, now I'm going 5.
Part of me to think the Spurs can snap out of this and still win the series, but also
they could still do it. Yeah, I mean, that's possible.
I'm waiting for the team that. And I know Oklahoma City had the injuries and, you know, a no-show offensive performance from Holmgren in Game 7, but I'm still waiting for the team that I saw that was dominant against the NBA champions in the majority of the previous series to show up.
Yeah.
Again. Obviously, it's small sample size, right? But there's part of me that thinks that they can snap out of it.
They can.
And
they better hurry up and do it real soon. I mean, real soon. I mean,
because him playing in the Garden against those hooligans, like,
and also the Knicks have been winning
against 8 million people in New York. Like, it ain't gonna go.
The Knicks have been winning on the road, so I don't even want to hear that if they can get a couple wins and get it to Game 7 in San Antonio, the Knicks could win in San Antonio. They just won in San Antonio. They're not afraid of San Antonio. No one's worried about San Antonio. The issue is going to be, what can you do in Madison Square Garden, George? Just imagine this scene. This will be the first NBA Finals game there of this century since 1999. That 99 team was an 8 seed that was never going to win. This is really the first legit chance the Knicks have to win a title since 94. You're not only going to have Trump there in the house, you're going to have all those alumni in the house. You're going to have the better team right now. You're playing better. You've been so dominant. George, it's going to be a scenario that Melo's going to want to take a shot himself. Like, you're going to be playing the fans, the alumni. The president is now a Knicks fan. He was for a long time, but he's saying he's a Knicks fan again. It's literally you against the world if you're the San Antonio Spurs. Get the T-shirt ready. George, that's what you should do. If you're Wembanyama, you should show up with a T-shirt that literally says Spurs against the world, because that is the case. And you want to be a villain, you go ahead and win those games there at MSG. You want to build a legacy, and because he's even said that he wants to end the debates about who's the best big man ever. He wants to end the debates. You want to end the debates. You go ahead and win at MSG in the finals in your second year with that atmosphere. Wow. Like if you want to do a 40-20 game and build your legacy that way, go ahead. I just don't see it. And even if I'm not saying they're going to get swept, even if they win a game, the Knicks are so good. They have the edge right now. Unless they crumble under the pressure of being in front of Trump and being at MSG and being in front of everybody else, like maybe that's on the board that they just lay an egg. I don't know. I think if they were going to lay some eggs, they would have laid them earlier in the playoffs. Like they didn't just beat Cleveland. They swept them and they made sure it was in 4. They didn't just beat Philadelphia. They made sure it was in 4. They didn't want to drag it out. George, here's how dominant the Knicks have been. They finished out the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 4 with a 39-point victory.
They embarrassed Cleveland.
But here's the thing. Their average margin of victory in series-clinching games went down. Hear me. Went down metrically after their 39-point win. Why? They closed out the Sixers with a 51-point differential. 39 was nothing comparison to the previous series. That's the thing. They're not just winning. They are embarrassing those teams. They didn't just take advantage of teams exhausted. They embarrassed them. They're not going to beat the Spurs by 39, by 51, or even by 29, but they beat them by 10. They beat him even when they were down. They beat him with Brunson hurt. They beat him with Brunson shooting only 38%. They beat him with Brunson 12 of 30 of 30 from the field. Like Brunson did not have his best game. He's going to be better too. He's going to be better too. You focus on Wemby being off. Yeah, Brunson was off. Brunson had 30 points, but he was under 40% shooting. It wasn't a great game for him. He was off as well, and he was banged up early in that game. So, again, if you feel like the Knicks are going to be better and they're not even at their best yet in the finals, they've been so dominant so far, and they're up against the world are the Spurs. This would be blowing it if the Knicks don't win this finals, and I do think it's right there for them to take this and do this quickly and do this in 5. And even if it goes long, to still do this because they have been better and are the better team, and even on paper maybe are the better team. The Spurs will be back. They'll do it in the future. But right now, this feels like the Knicks' freaking time. It really, really does. And you know, who knows if they can get back? Who knows if they can build off of this? Who knows if we're ever going to see a repeat champion in the NBA again? Because it's been a freaking long time since we've had one. The Spurs certainly could get back there next year, but this season right now feels like it's about the Knicks. This is going to be a historic championship. This will live forever. Flags will fly forever. Banners will fly forever. This one will fly forever. And George, if you think Patrick Ewing is treated like a god for just taking them to the NBA Finals, if you win a championship there, Kat and Jalen Brunson are never going to have to pay for a meal ever again in New York City, and they are going to be gods and then some over the alumni. So this is all right there for them, but this will be a gigantic missed opportunity if they don't win it too. Yeah. Just getting there will be great, but they got to get this job done now with the situation they're in and how well they're playing. And the Spurs are exhausted, and Wemby's a little bit below his standard, even though he's been so great. So the pressure's on the Knicks, but I think they're going to deliver. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're the better team. I think they're going to win it. And I'm going Knicks in 5. What are you doing now? Where's George's pick? Yeah, the Spurs can come back and can make this a long series, but do they?
5 seems. I don't think they're going to win it at MSG. I'll take Knicks on the road in San Antonio to win it in Game 6.
And if they don't, then you're going to 7. Yeah, Game 6 would be in
MSG.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say MSG then. We'll do. I think San Antonio can win 2 games. I really do. So even though it seems daunting at this point.
Yeah, I mean, again, there were some that looked at the Spurs as the favorite going into the series, but I don't think that they looked at the fatigue factor, that they played more games, that they're not as battle tested, that they are inexperienced, that they are younger, and that there's no parallel to this in NBA history. So
Knicks might go to San Antonio up 3-1 I can see that happening.
And here's the issue. The Knicks have been a team that they kill you when they have a closeout game. If they're up 3-1 to then lose, that's hard to believe. Hard to believe. That's why I'm going 5.
Yeah.
The Spurs got to get game 2. We're in front of game 2. The Spurs got to get game 2. If they do not get game 2 and the Knicks have both wins on the road and then they go to MSG, if they're up 2-0 going into game 3 with what MSG is going to be like, that's going to be insane for the Spurs to try to even get one out of that thing. And if they don't, of course, they're done. So I'm going Knicks in 5. I think the Knicks win this regardless. Maybe it'll go longer. I'm going Knicks in 5. I had Vegas in 6. I'm not going to move off that prediction right now based on what we've seen from the Cup Finals so far. But this has been nuts. And, to close up shop here in the Howitzer and Buzzsaw show, there is another team in the realm of college sports that is right now potentially on a path to win a championship, and that is the West Virginia Mountaineers and WVU baseball program, because they have a path right in front of them as well, as they're hosting now a super regional for the first time ever this coming weekend with a lower conference opponent in Cal Poly coming to Morgantown after winning the regional, another regional title in a row for Mountaineer baseball.
Cal Poly comes in having won the Los Angeles regional after St. Mary's eliminated top overall seed UCLA, and Cal Poly eventually beats St. Mary's, wins that regional. We are looking at a year in college baseball is a hell of a drug. It's having a moment. We're looking at a year in which
odd year, though, if they would even win this. It'd be a very odd. I feel like if West Virginia would win this national title, there would be people that are going to argue it's the easiest path ever, which they won't care. But
go F yourself.
No, they're not going to care. But I mean, what you're trying to get at is going to be said, because it is an odd year for the sport.
Of the 8 teams, to Mike's point, of the 8 teams that went to Omaha last year and played in the College World Series, 4 of them didn't even make the baseball tournament this year, didn't even make it to the region.
We're talking about college baseball blue bloods that didn't make it.
LSU,
Vanderbilt.
And then
Florida State losing early. UCLA gets out as the top overall seed.
Yeah. And then
WVU's not even hosting the Super Regional unless UCLA loses, as great as they've been. They would be in Los Angeles right now, and that would be really a tough situation.
That were in Omaha. 4 didn't make it into this year's tournament, and the other 4 all lost in the regional round and did not advance to the supers. So here we are in the super regional, and not only that, but the very classic West Virginia provided with the opportunity. You have been placed in a pod. Not only will you play Cal Poly,
not only that,
wild card MLB wild card style series, best of 3, first team to win 2 weekend series starts Friday, obviously. Goes to Omaha, but you are in a pod where if you advance, you will then play the Trojans, either of Troy or of Little Rock in Omaha. If you were to advance,
you literally could go a full week and a half and not until the Final 4 without having to face a power program.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That some nationally would think this is a little odd. There's not many examples of playing pretty much all group of 5s. And you could argue, maybe they're going to blow it at some point despite everything in front of them. If they were going to do what you're saying, though, George, the time would have been Monday. They were about to blow that game, and they won that game anyway. They were up. They were up in that game. I was there covering it in person. They were about to blow that game. That was about to be a West Virginia team blowing a chance at a championship. That was about to be the example you're alluding to. They had back-to-back homers go against them from Kentucky. And what happened? They won it anyway. You know that when it was 5-5, you were thinking they're going to blow this. They won it anyway. So if they were going to blow it, I feel like that would have been in the game to blow it, not now. Nothing's a guarantee for sure, and Cal Poly can score, even though they're not exactly Kentucky with the long ball. But at home, Cal Poly is not even being a lower-level team. They're traveling 3 time zones. They didn't get there until Wednesday. They're only getting a day and a half before the game in terms of being in Morgantown. You're at home. You have the Big 12 pitcher of the year who's now healthy that didn't end up getting hurt when everyone thought he was hurt. You have a star-studded roster with Gavin Kelly that was MVP of the regional that, out of my blood of Pittsburgh Central Catholic, looks like a star. I mean, they're going to have to worry about keeping him because every SEC school is going to pay him a lot of money to leave.
Drafted.
Well, he's right now projected to be the top pick in 2027, assuming that, that's when he would come out. But And he's a local guy. He's a regional guy. Again, he's from Pittsburgh Central Catholic, went down there for the great facilities in West Virginia, and Saban's recruiting him. I actually think he would turn down more money and would not leave, talking to the man. I don't think he would leave for more money unless it's insane. So you're really in a great spot here. You're never going to get a scenario better than this in terms of a path where you're hosting all these things. I mean, this is all in front of you. I mean, you're hosting all of these things. Even if football would get in the CFP, George, and even if they could host one game, the way the format is, they're not going to host all of the games.
Yeah.
WVU baseball is hosting multiple rounds to get to Omaha, and then they would face a group of 5, a mid-major. So it's right there. You had the Neil Brown Bowl if Troy would win. Who's he going to tweet about?
Because he soccer's the only other kind of one you can get close to, and it still doesn't have the widespread appeal that college baseball does. I told a mutual friend of ours earlier this week. I was there Monday, and obviously just an incredible moment on multiple things. The Mountaineer fan tradition that all of us who are either from the state or went to the university are familiar with, the singing country roads after victories, has somehow transcended into the national consciousness for apparently the first time.
Yeah, that's odd because I mean the last several years have been rough football and basketball, but there's a lot of big moments where people sang the song.
Made NBC Nightly News. Multiple millions of people watched social videos of the baseball team and the fans locking arms and singing the John Denver Classic. And the program having a moment, and the university and the state having a moment there that has been unlike any I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. But beyond that, I told a friend of ours earlier this week that it's the most positive WVU athletic result, most significant positive WVU athletic result I feel and I think since the men's basketball team beat Kentucky to go to the Final Four in 2010. Like, that's how long I'm thinking, you know.
Well, I mean, the counter would be the Orange Bowl was after that.
They've won bowl games and they've won, they've been NCAA tournaments, right? But in terms of the significance of an actual postseason round victory to advance, in my money, it's until this weekend, it was the biggest baseball game in program history. Yeah, the super regionals were nice, but to do it at home, with the chance to get the next round at home for the first time ever, and I don't want to say never again, but you got to hold on to these opportunities when you have, and to break down that.
Yeah, because even when you won the conference a year ago in the regular season, and this year you're runner up, the champion and the runner up were the 15 and 16 overall seed. Like the Big 12 is not going to get the top seed where UCLA was. The Big 10 gets those. The SEC is basically all the baseball schools in the middle there.
Of events to happen.
I mean, 100%.
When the basketball team did it in 2010, they hadn't been to the Final Four since Jerry West. And when the baseball team doing this, they've been to the Supers now a couple years in a row, which is awesome. They've never done this to be able to host the chance.
Be able to host is different. Yeah, being able to host is different because this is the other issue, that the Final Four run was incredible. That was historic. That was great. That helped cement Bob Huggins a Hall of Famer. That was a big deal. Having that run is even why that Ren Baker can argue top 25 historic program. Without that, you'd be talking about Jerry West, and it'd be hard to argue. Like, you do have one. Having a Final Four is better than not. Even if whether you have a national title or not is immaterial. Having a Final Four run is a big deal, and whether you count the other claim or not is immaterial. You have the Final Four run, no one can take away, but they weren't playing in Morgantown to go to the Final Four. And the other example that if you want to argue that the Final Four was not the last time of a big win for the athletic department would have been the Orange Bowl, which was after that when they hung 70 on Clemson. Obviously that's a big historic victory that is still talked about nationally. And that was nationally discussed because they were the underdog and hung 70. And that is still a record for points in a bowl game that has been tied, but not surpassed. So, and the other games, by the way, of teams that scored 70 were not in a major bowl. That is a major bowl win. And I think also having that major bowl win made it a little different for the era because
they had just joined the Big 12. That was significant.
Well, that was the end of the Big East. They were joining the next year.
They were just joining the Big 12.
They were joining. Yeah, that was the end of the Big East because that was the last. They haven't won a Big 12 title.
Discussion about, is West Virginia good enough for the Big 12? Like that type of stuff, right?
Right, and they won right on the end of that. But then the other part of that is they had the major bowl victories under Rich Rodriguez, and of course the Don Nalen era, and even Bobby Bowden. And there were times there was success with the program for sure. It's the top 20 all-time winningest program, but having the Orange Bowl win even though Rod was not there, it helped solidify the program overall, because if you didn't have that, you could have then argued, at least in the modern era in this century, certainly since Don Nalen retired, that you had the Rod period that some argue just like a segment of time that'll never be duplicated. He then leaves, and there's still people all the time in group text. They're like, well, West Virginia's never been the same after 13-9. And I have to believe they won the Orange Bowl, like only 4 years later. Like, that is a major bowl win. Like, it's not been the same since Dana left. It's not been the same. The Dana tenure was not Rich Rod's.
In those
obviously the Dana tenure is very polarizing. Something was underachieving because the defense was so bad. They had 2 10-win seasons. They did win a conference title. They won an Orange Bowl in an 8-year stretch where they averaged 7-8 wins a year. They only had really one bad season. I think it gets disrespected a bit too much. But since his exit, the program's not been near what it was, even when he was there, where they were perennial least ranked, even though they weren't really a national title contender. And you could argue the Orange Bowl year was this is the difference too. You could argue the Orange Bowl year, winning that Orange Bowl, was really the last time that a West Virginia team, because that was after the Final Four, was a legit viable national champion type team. Baseball's been great, but even after they won regionals, it felt like that was the ceiling. They'd get to super regional, whether it be North Carolina, LSU, or whatever, and they would kind of get their doors blown off, and it wouldn't be close. And it felt like the regional win would be the ceiling. And women's basketball would be great in their regular season, but then they couldn't even get to a Sweet 16, no matter who's the coach. You have Dana winning these games and getting ranked, but they don't have a defense. They're not really a player as a top 10 team or national title team since the Orange Bowl. Of course, Huggins has the Final Four run, and he did go to the Sweet 16 3 out of 4 years after that with Deuce McBride and company, and Javon Carter was there. But they were a Sweet 16 team. They weren't a Final Four team again. Correct. So his peak was still that Final Four run, and of course Beeline before that with the Elite Eight. But since the Final Four, since the Orange Bowl, they've had good seasons, but they weren't really a national title player. And having the Orange Bowl win, to me, though, also is a big deal, because then you have 3 major bowl wins this century. There are not many programs, despite it being down the last decade, there are not many programs that have 3 major bowl wins this century, George. I mean, to put this in perspective, Pitt has not won a major bowl win since 1981. The program that you cover in Maryland, they were in an Orange Bowl. When's the last time they won a major bowl game? Won it.
Boy, they lost that Peach Bowl.
Yeah, not in, won it.
90s. Yeah.
So West Virginia has 3 major wins this century. Like, that's what the Orange Bowl does by having it as a victory, not just getting there. So I don't think you can dismiss that and say it's the Final Four, but neither one were in Morgantown. This is in Morgantown. Is in Morgantown. If they go to the College World Series, it'll be clinched in Morgantown, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, in Morgantown. So, and if you want to say they're the biggest games in program history, even though they've been further, it's because they're at home. They're in Morgantown. You get the walk-off. You get the dogpiling in Morgantown. The win on Monday was off a walk-off where they were the bottom of the 9th team, and all the home games, you're not always literally the home team. It switches off. It depends on who wins those games. It depends on how things
Sunday
work.
To beat Kentucky, because West Virginia was coming from the losers.
They were coming. They almost, they had to get incredible wins to even get to Monday.
Kentucky was the home team, even though obviously they're playing in West Virginia Stadium. Yeah.
And you could argue that it would have been an upset for West Virginia it would have been disappointing. It would have been West Virginia blowing it to have the situation before Sunday, even, because Kentucky people thought shouldn't even have made the tournament. And then you have Wake Forest, who some thought was overrated. And of course you have Binghamton, who wasn't going to do anything. So they were at home, but West Virginia kind of underachieved the early games, and Yale got hurt, and then they weren't 100%. And I voted Gavin Kelly as regional MVP. I was one of the people that voted for him. I will say he won it. And as we told him, he won it in the post-game presser. Guzman, who got the game winner on the walk-off, literally said, what do I got to do to win the MVP for you guys? Because the funny thing is, Guzman hit 400, had 7 RBI in the walk-off. Gavin Kelly hit 300 some, had 8 RBI, and didn't have the walk-off. But for a little behind the curtain, we had to hand in our ballots in the 7th inning. That was part of it. The second part of it is they wasted Gavin Kelly's best games. He won the regional MVP. I think he deserved it because he also, by the way, George, is a catcher. He's a shortstop and a catcher, as unique as that is, and he commanded the pitching staff too and helped them too. That makes him the MVP with what he does offensively. But he had a 2-homer game in the loss. So his best game was the loss to Kentucky, and they still ended up winning. There was a lot about that regional that it would have been typical West Virginia blowing it, and they still won. So that's why it's in front of them again. I mean, obviously, this wouldn't be an evergreen portion of the show here. We're on the eve of the open of the Super Regional in Morgantown, noon on Friday against Cal Poly. But do you think they beat Cal Poly and get to Omaha for the first time in program history?
I can't. I'm not going to. First time I will not indulge you. I'm obviously rooting for it. I have put my money toward it here in town. God, I hope they do.
I mean, Cal Poly is a team that can score a lot, but they don't hit home runs, which has been the problem for West Virginia when they face teams that can hit the long ball. Cal Poly is small ball.
Yeah.
I think West Virginia gets up. I don't see they cannot make up 4 runs in an inning.
And everybody has gotten here through different means, and it's just a matter of
you want an easy path. Look at Cal Poly's. They didn't face UCLA.
Sure, but you still got to this point, and it's a matter of are your best players going to execute when they need to? Sure. Guzman and the top of the order.
I don't see why Gavin Kelly and Guzman wouldn't hit. I don't see.
I'm not saying they're not going to. I'm just saying the West Virginia will go on their backs and on Max's back into if they are so fortunate enough to make it to Omaha, it'll be on the backs of those guys.
I mean, it'd also be interesting how Saban's manages this because Montesa threw 130 pitches against Wake Forest, and then he pitched then he pitched again. And Saban's actually went through this because we asked him in the post-game presser. He said the reason why I threw Montesa again, he literally asked everybody on the team, including Yale, who at the time they didn't know was fully 100%, if they could go and if they would be available because the season was on the line at that point, and all of a sudden the game was up in the air again. And he said that he would hear from Max Yell or from others, he would hear the phrase of or the answer of, yeah, if the team needs me, or I can go in if you need me, or maybe, or I'll try, or I'll give it a shot, or I'd like to go, or I'm not going to tell you no, or again, I'll do it for the team. And Saban said very honestly and candidly that he literally evaluated it off of pure psychology, off of their answers. And if somebody told him, I'll do it for the team, he told us he eliminated them from a chance to go in the game.
Yeah,
because he said
you need to know what yourself is, right? I don't need
because he said that no one's going to say no. So if you're saying you only are going to go in because you want to do it for the team, then you can't go in. If you're going to say that you won't be 100%, as he said, one pitcher told him they would not be 100%, but they would go in for the team. And Saban said, well, you're certainly not going in now. But apparently Montesa's the only one who told him, I know I just pitched, but I feel just as good as I did yesterday. So he was like, okay, you can go. And he ended up walking a batter. It wasn't like he threw a strikeout. But those decisions have really worked out as well. And again, going to Omaha does not mean winning in Omaha. Beating Cal Poly does not mean beating Troy or Little Rock. But, I mean, here's how we'll close, George. And this isn't even a prediction of this, but this will be an historic conversation as well. You mentioned the Final Four. So separate from football and other things, because there's never going to be I guess with a CFP you could have a Final Four, but it's not the same. It's throughout the history of the sport, really, until the last decade, we didn't get a traditional postseason. It was just about claiming things and voting. So if you're talking college basketball where there's an NCAA tournament and there's been one for a long damn time, and you've had, Sweet 16s and Elite Eights and Final Fours, and the national title they claim was not in the NCAA tournament, so they've never gone the distance in the NCAA tournament. And then you have college baseball where it's been this type of style of a tournament where it's been the regional wins recently and a super regional appearances, but not winning there and now hosting for the first time in a super regional. If West Virginia baseball would get to the equivalent, right now they're in the Sweet 16 basically. If they go to Omaha, they would be in the Elite Eight. If they get to the Final Four and cap it and go to the Final Four and do not win the national title, but go to the Final Four, from an historic achievement perspective, would that be better or worse than the 2010 run within the same century of a modern era. And it is a fair question because you could argue this is a harder postseason type situation because there's a series involved than that was. That's do or die every game. Maybe that's harder for some. What if they're two Final Fours within a 2-decade situation? Which one which one are you saying is better for the program, better historically, a bigger deal, and try to get it where it's outside of just college basketball being a bigger sport? Because that would be an argument too. But this would be right up there in that conversation then, as improbable and as crazy as this has been and as historic as this has been, and as much as this has been a national thing.
We're apple and oranges a little bit because reaching the Final Four or the Frozen Four, in most NCAA tournaments set up, or most NCAA championships set up somehow in that fashion, right? Lacrosse is set up that way. Obviously, basketball, hockey are set up that way.
Yeah, baseball, and there's not a hockey comparison.
Baseball, it's 8 teams that make it to Omaha, and you're in the College World Series, right?
Yeah, you're in the Elite 8, but it's College World Series.
That's to me, making it to Omaha is on a level with making it to a basketball Final Four.
So then if they get through and beat Troy, for example, and go to the literal Final Four, that would be then better, I would imagine.
Yes. Or the equivalent of if West Virginia made it to a national championship game in basketball.
But I'm asking you to make it comparable. What if they don't do that and they just get to the Final Four? Because the 2010 team did not go to the championship game. Granted, of course, Butler got hurt.
And I'm trying to do, again, I'm doing apples and oranges. So
if they go to the championship game, I think it has to take the cake. I'm just saying that what if they don't go there?
To reach the basketball championship, presuming you're not in the jerry-rigged first round shit that we're doing now, you win 5 games in basketball, right? Your first 2, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2. In baseball, you've got the first round, 7 games. West Virginia wins 3 of those games. 1, 2, 3 of those games. Now here, they would win 2 more games to beat Cal Poly. That's 5. And they're in, so it's like almost like I'm trying to do the best I can equivalency. I think reaching the College World Series may be more of an achievement because for a couple of reasons. You're seeing NCAA tournament a lot of times. Yeah, it's a gauntlet and it's 64, 68, whatever, how many we're at now, 72, right? Head to head.
No, it's going to be 76 with the expansion.
76. Thank you. One game. Boom, next team on, right? This is, you got to play the same team. You got to play like West Virginia did sometimes, 2 games, a doubleheader in one day. You're going to have to play the same team twice to beat them to get to the supers. Then you got to play that team and beat them twice in 3 games, and you might play them all 3 games. So you get the notion of the series in baseball truly gives you
the better lineup doesn't always win in baseball.
You have truly won this, right? We've seen the basketball where got the ball and Kevin Durant came down and hits a shot and beat West Virginia that one year right? So I'm not saying that makes the NCAA games fluky, but it means they're more volatile, right? Whereas in baseball, you've got to play these teams multiple times and it truly determines who is the winner.
Yeah.
Kentucky was this close to winning that series. And then you grand slam them on Sunday. And hey, guess what? You get to come back less than 24 hours later and you got to play them again. So if you're Kentucky, it's like, okay, we got our chance to come back and get retribution. If you're West Virginia, okay, now's our chance to move on and make our legacy here.
Yeah.
And so I think it gives the baseball process a little bit more weight to me, especially if you make it to Omaha.
Yeah. I mean, I agree in the sense of if you win a college basketball national championship in the NCAA tournament, there is some thinking out there of the March Madness feel of it is intended to be for everybody. It does allow more mid-majors to get in than any other sport. Of course, the CFP is trying to box them out, whereas college basketball is still welcoming them to be in, even with the expansion. It is kind of fluky where a worse team can win. We've seen a lot of mid-majors go to Final Fours. So West Virginia's been to a Final Four, but so has San Diego State. So has FAU. So has Butler twice. Like, they've been to fewer Final Four than some programs that you certainly would say are lesser historically in terms of the modern era. And that's because it's so freaking fluky. Doesn't mean they had better players, but it's so freaking fluky. The major conference teams don't always go so far. George, before Michigan won this national championship, the Big Ten had not won a national championship in college basketball in over 2 decades. So it doesn't mean the Big Ten had been horrible for so long, but they couldn't get the national championship for so long.
Yeah.
So
multiple Final Four teams along the way. Wisconsin had made it. Michigan State had made it. Michigan had made it right to the Final Four, but not won the
Michigan
title.
itself had been very, very close, but then they win this one. But that's how fluky it really, really is. I mean, George, Kevin Durant did not win a national title. Dwayne Wade did not win a national title. A lot of great NBA top draft picks did not win national championships, and they did play college basketball. One of West Virginia's biggest wins in program history is beating Chris Paul, who didn't win a national championship, did not go to a Final Four, and started his trek of not getting it done team-wise against West Virginia. So it is kind of fluky, but in college baseball, I mean, I'll say this, George, as much as, and I do this, I'm as guilty as anybody else, as much as you can debate the legitimacy of most college sports championships, whether it be the flukiness of the NCAA tournament in basketball, whether it be which poll is legit or not in college football, or who deserves to get in the CFP, et cetera, or the BCS, whatever. You can even a scoring system in rifle and all the national titles you could say that's fluky and that's not fair. Gymnastics, whatever. A lot of this is opinion. A lot of this is scoring systems. A lot of this is not traditional playoff rounds. A lot of this is fluky, upset Cinderella stories meant for TV and designed that way, not really crowning. I mean, Joe Klatt has the whole rant of, are you really crowning the best team, or do you just want the almost a great for TV tournament? And you could argue maybe he's right in that debate in terms of the NCAA tournament in college basketball. And as much as all of that can be debated, and you can debate the championships through the history of college sports all day, every day, and I will, the winner of the College World Series, the way it is structured now, is an undisputed. Like, you cannot debate it. There is no, this poll is legit or that poll is not legit, or you lost this bowl game, or he claims this and doesn't claim this, or you should claim this and don't claim that. That's not here. Like, if West Virginia would win the College World Series, there's no meeting about what to claim. It is the championship. Like, that is the situation here. And that is unique. You could argue there's nothing else in college sports that would be so undisputed. People debate. I mean, Indiana went undefeated. They had a great run. It's undisputed, of course. But there are people that debate who should be in the CFP. It's not like everybody in the sport gets in. Mm-hmm. In the College World Series, they're putting a lot of teams in originally. They're going through a regional, then a super regional. Everybody's in that thing. It's not like it's only 12 teams getting in and then they go ahead and win a few games. I mean, Indiana got into a 12-team field, and what they have to do, win 3 games? I mean, they won convincingly, but I mean, West Virginia won 3 games in a weekend, and they're not even halfway through. Like, correct. I mean, playing
the same team twice.
Right. I mean, if Indiana played a 2-month-long journey where they had to win 12 games, I mean, maybe they would do it, but that would be pretty improbable. That's the scenario here. The only devil's advocate argument I will say against that is the loser bracket exists.
Yeah.
So the argument against that is
you can suffer.
West Virginia lost early, and in the other sports would have already been eliminated, and then they went out of a loser's bracket, and then if they go ahead and win title,
but nature of baseball and nature of series, right, is that even though in short series we allow for a loss in there, and if you end up in the loser's bracket, you've got to fight your way out of it and do.
And they did, and we've seen teams do that, but
it's like, hey, there's a path for you, but there's going to be a doubleheader in there at some point, and you're going to play 3 baseball games in a matter of 48 hours.
Yeah. But having a loser's bracket is pretty unique. I mean, in college sport, I mean, having a loser's bracket, I mean, like, for example, George, I mean, if Oregon would have lost and then you go ahead and put them in the loser's bracket and they can go ahead and beat somebody else and get back in to play Indiana, I mean, I think that'd be, we might worry about it. Like, they're a great team. They just happen to lose. If you have a loser's bracket, it's a little different. And it's not necessarily fair to, like, Miami loses to Indiana in the national title game in football. They didn't get to play out of a loser's bracket. That loss, they're only lost the playoffs. They're done. I'm sure they'd love to play again.
That's the nature of
they're
baseball,
different sports.
And that's why people hated so much as we had the for the short period of time that we
the
did
wild
have
card round. Yeah.
Where it was a game, right? And the Pirates, of course, went through it multiple times, and now we've finally gone to the 3-game series thing. Shout out to Matt who points out we missed the 4 games there. So West Virginia wins the first game, has to beat Wake Forest
they beat Binghamton. They're right. They beat Binghamton. Then they had to beat Wake Forest and Kentucky in back-to-back games. Had to win 2 games in a doubleheader.
2 games on Sunday, and then win the game on Monday to win the regional. So
because they beat Binghamton, they lost to Kentucky, they beat Wake Forest, they beat Kentucky again, then they beat Kentucky.
They get to Omaha. It's 6 wins to get to Omaha, right? And doing it, having to do it, you've got to respect the, I want to say integrity of baseball, but you got to respect like the tradition of baseball. That baseball is not a sport that's a winner take all one-off type of thing like that, right?
No, it's just a different structure, and it would be an undisputed championship for sure. That's why it would be crazy. Again, you could argue it would be the most historic win in the athletic department's history for sure, certainly the way it's structured.
Sure.
And I mean, you could argue that they're not playing power teams now for a while, and you could argue, George, that Kentucky shouldn't have got in the field. They only won 33 games. Like that was a pretty low bar to get in. They were the 3 seed. Wake Forest was the 2.
I mean, Wisconsin, Milwaukee was in with a sub 500 record.
I'm just saying people act like Kentucky was the clear runner up of that regional. They were the 3 seed entering. They ended up getting the championship game, but they were the 3 seed. So the committee was saying they barely were in. I mean, Binghamton is just obviously a throwaway team that gets in off winning a lower conference. So Kentucky didn't have a normal Kentucky year.
Sure.
But as what Kentucky's head coach said, Nick Mangione, who by the way is one of the nicest guys ever. He gave a motivational speech for everybody after and cried. But he literally said, because I asked him up front, this program's not won a national championship. You're the opponent. You've seen them more than anybody. Do you legit believe they can? You've played national champions in recent years in the SEC. Give me an honest assessment. And he said that they have a star player. They have multiple offensive forces in Guzman and Gavin Kelly that you need to win a national championship. They have a great staff and a Big 12 pitcher of the year. Usually you have to have a conference championship level pitcher to get it done. They have an ace, but which is what the problem was in the regional, which is how it got to Monday, which is the only way Cal Poly can beat them in my eyes, George.
Okay.
They commit a lot of errors. They're not sound defensively. At least they've not been recently. Earlier in the season, they were great defensively. But recently, going to the Big 12 tournament and going into the regional play, they were rough defensively at times. They would allow more base runners that should be on there, and they would commit errors. They had 3 errors in one of those games, I believe, if I remember correctly. And he said, the path is there. They're at home. You're facing a non-power team. The path is there. But if you commit errors like that, anybody can take advantage and anybody can beat you. And Cal Poly scored a lot of runs, even without the home run. So, George, it's pretty clear if West Virginia does not go to Omaha, they will beat themselves. And they will be at fault for not going. And they will not be giving their best effort in the Super Regional. I don't think if it's straight up will they lose. Especially because you have the cushion of even if you lose Friday, you got Saturday and then go to Sunday.
Sure.
But it's right there for them. The path is there. But yeah, they have to play fundamentally sound baseball. They have to play better defensively. They need more innings from their starters than what they've been getting, even though offensively they should be able to carry them through at least this series. But if you look at the Vegas lines, they're the favorite, but it's not like they are a slam dunk favorite. Like there's some room for clearly some people are betting on Cal Poly out there. They're WVU is the favorite, but it's not like they're supposed to just dominate.
It was stronger than I thought it would be.
I mean, entering the week, West Virginia was only
the interest of full disclosure. So I looked at the line. At least so game 1 at least. Cal as of
West Virginia was a slim favorite as recent as Wednesday, and we're right now. I didn't see it today, but they were minus 105 when the thing opened.
They were heavier than that. With me forgetting the specific number, I want to say West Virginia was minus 140 to win game 1 tomorrow.
I meant the whole series. 105 is what I said.
It was also pretty substantial. Cal Poly was high 100s plus high 100s. to win the series, plus 210 to win game one. So West Virginia, I was surprised too. I was surprised West Virginia was that substantial of a favorite.
Well, I'm just saying that it was they were right. So right now,
I have $5. I'm going to just say it here because I did. The interest of full disclosure, I do not bet on teams that I.
They're right now. They're a 2.5 point favorite in terms of the run line over Cal Poly. As I'm looking right now on DraftKings.
Yeah, I have $5 on West Virginia to win $1.50 tomorrow. That's how, like they are a substantial favorite because it's not paying much.
Well, yeah, but I mean the lines move though. I mean, I'm saying that.
Yeah, but you
could
said
be
a substantial with Slim. I'm telling you, it's increased in West Virginia's favor. And
but I'm saying that it would have had to increase in 2 days because
Yes.
It was not. It was Slim 24 hours ago.
Poly is a plus 200 underdog. So.
But the point still stands because every single other power program that is in this situation that is the favorite now opened up the week as a bigger favorite than West Virginia. West Virginia was in the lowest. Sure. Well, but the reason
is because of what you said they are. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. The point of it is that that nationally they're the favorite. Clearly, they're at home. It would be a major upset, but. They're not. It's
also plus 1,000 to win the College World Series as well.
Yeah, the last time I looked at that, they had the 6th highest odds, meaning
Correct.
the 6th best odds.
Yeah,
to win that, but that was a day ago as well. But I mean, to open up at minus 105, I mean, Auburn was opening up and North Carolina were opening up way better than that, and they're facing power teams. My point of it is, if you're Sabans, you could spin this into a slight. Even though they're the significant favorite today, that they're. I mean, if it was North Carolina against Cal Poly, I bet you the line would be even bigger.
It could be, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think that there's a little bit of they haven't been in this spot before as a heavy favorite, so they're expecting. And also, I mean, Vegas lines too. It's off of what people are betting. There's a lot more West Virginia fans than Cal Poly fans out there, so there's a lot more people betting on the Mountaineers, but. There's been left wiggle room in the Vegas lines from through the whole week where that has not been the case in the other series. The only other series that's open up like this is Little Rock, Troy. I mean, the other ones are pretty clear. Like I would actually. So what is the Kansas Oklahoma would be the comparison one, and that's pretty much a push. It looks like they're not even right now a run line. Because that's the 15 seed, but they're facing Oklahoma, so
we'll see. We'll see how.
And then Alabama has St. John, so they're another one that isn't like in West Virginia's spot basically as a power versus a non-power. Otherwise, it's either the two nons or power versus power.
Yeah, but they were an overwhelming favorite to win the super the super regional overall and advance to the World Series, and slightly less than that to win the first game of it. So, and plus 1,000 for the Mountaineers to win the College World Series, which we can only hope and pray that they get the opportunity to compete in that. We'll put a nice bow. Ecumenical Sports edition of the Howitzer and Buzzsaw Show. Find us wherever you get your podcast. Search Howitzer in your favorite podcast app. Shout out to the Hyphen Podcast Group. Great podcast for the people, hyphenpodcastgroup.com, and on socials.
And you can also find us on social at House of Buzzsaw, Gerbo 3, at Mike Asti 11. I thought you weren't done there.
No, you're good.
and you can find us everywhere you get your podcasts as well. Of course, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play, etc. You can find us here right now on my channel on YouTube. Maybe we'll venture into an HBS channel. And yeah, you can find a lot of championship level baseball, basketball, and hockey to be played here in the coming days, weeks, and as we get through into the actual period of the summer at the end of this month. And then it'll be very interesting, actually, what the line will be that if West Virginia, if they do get through to Omaha, and then in the Final Four. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's right in front of them. I mean, there is no, if they do not get to Omaha, there's no path going to be this easy. It would be a major disappointment. But nothing is a guarantee in baseball. So We will see.
This has been another edition of the Howitzer and Buzzsaw Show, where we conquer blockbuster trades, unprecedented playoff runs, and sports radio.
One day at a time.